Welcome to the 2017 JLPT Seminar. My name is Jon Gal. My personal website is jonsensei.com. You can grab one of my cards over there. We are at the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute here in Nashville, where if you want to take a Japanese class and you're not a college student, this is pretty much the place to be, right, Stephen?
That's for sure.
Yeah, I am a Japanese instructor here at TSLI. Today's June 25th, 2017. This is a recording of a live event if anybody's watching this as a Facebook or a YouTube video later. So a little bit about the organizations putting this on today. Again, TFLI, you can check out our website up there, tfli.org, if you'd like to register for a class this fall or keep in touch with our social media to see what other type of events we put on. The Jet Alumni Association of Music City is one of our presenters, and we got some new Jets coming in. So thank you guys so much. It was great meeting you yesterday at the Jet Q&A, and I really appreciate you coming and being a part of this seminar. And I'm out there on the social medias at Mr. Jon Sensei. I teach Japanese here. I've also designed an app called Hiragana Breaker, a sort of block breaking game that can help you learn hiragana. I think I had a friend of mine in the back of the room who just came in. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Alex Ketchum. I work for a Japanese company in the automotive industry. I lived in Japan for about 5 years. And I passed the old level 3 and the new level 3 and failed level 2 a couple years ago by literally 1 point in reading comprehension. So that was frustrating. But I keep at it, still studying. I'm going to get some.
Are you going to register again this year?
Probably, yeah.
For N2?
Useful for work.
Okay. Well, I talked a little bit about this, but the agenda for today's seminar, what I'm first going to do is just talk about general information about the Japanese Language Proficiency Test, or JLPT, sort of what it is, why it's important, why I register for it. Then we're going to take a break, and then the second 2/3 of the seminar is going to be a deep dive into each section of the test. And for this, we're going to have some sample questions. A lot of these are coming from the N5 test, some from some higher level tests as an example. So if you're not comfortable with reading what's in the sheet right now, that's fine. You will get there someday, and I hope to help you with it. When we dive into the test, we're going to start with the characters and vocabulary. Learning your kanji is a big part of what you'll need for the reading, and learning your vocabulary is a big part of what you'll need for listening and grammar anyway. So that's where we'll spend a lot of our time talking about those sections. And then the last third, going to dive into grammar, reading, and listening comprehension. So any questions so far? And again, I do this just to help you guys out. If you have a question, by all means, throw up the hands and let's address it. Or if you've got some comments, or like Alex and Dion, if you have some experience to share, please just jump in with that. That's kind of what makes a live event so worth it. Okay. So, as one of my favorite authors, Simon Sinek, poses in his book, Start With Why, let's start with why. Why take the JLPT?
To certify yourself as having a second language, you got to be able to prove it.
Got to be able to prove it, yeah. Like I was talking about in the JET seminar yesterday. Anybody can say, I'm fluent in Japanese or something like that. Be like, Hajima Mashita, Tasha awa jon desu. Yeah, I'm all fluent. Okay, anybody can say that. So as Alex said, the JLPT certifies that you can actually perform proficiently in the language at a certain level. Why else take it? Why are you guys here? Why take it? You're about to say something. We'll call on you.
To get to kind of make a career.
Okay. Yep, as a building block for your career. Okay.
The first time I took the test, it was literally because I was studying Japanese, and it like just to set a permanent, like a hard, concrete goal to
Okay.
studying.
Okay. I'm going to talk about that. All right. Okay, so we've been kind of talking about why. Anybody else like to share their why of their looking at the JLPT? What they kind of hope to get from it?
I've been preparing for to kind of get a job in Japan or
with something that relates to Japan here, but
Uh-huh.
I got a job anyway without it. But I mean, why not just go ahead and finish the goal that I already made for myself?
Definitely finish that goal. Okay, so now what it is, Japanese language proficiency test, it is the internationally recognized standard of Japanese language proficiency. You can be here in the States, you can be in Japan, you could be in Europe or Southeast Asia, and worldwide they're going to recognize this standard of proficiency wherever you go. It's offered every December and July in Japan, so for you Jets departing, as we talked about yesterday, you can take it this December, then you can take the next level or whatever next July. For us overseas, like here in the United States, it's only offered in December. So this December will be your chance to take it. And it's separated into 5 different levels. They now have an N in front of them. This number system was adopted in 2010. N5, the lowest level, you need about 100 kanji and 800 words to pass that. So that's kind of why I'm asking how many kanji do you know, so you guys can help gauge how far you are away from that N5 test. And you sort of go up incrementally, more and more kanji you know. What a lot of people are aiming for, like you said you're aiming for N2, so you need about 1,000 kanji, 6,000 words. That's definitely what's required for a lot of professional jobs. Sort of, you get to that point, you can read magazines and websites and that type of thing. And then the top level N1, that's basically all your Joyo kanji, over 2,000 kanji, and that will take you several years to get to. So do we have any questions about this type of information about the test right now? So part of why I take it, this is a screenshot from the JLPT's website, and this is sort of a description of the N5, the lowest level, and there's a description of N1, the top level. And it basically defines what you are able to do in Japanese. And so if I'm an employer, and especially if I'm an employer who does not speak Japanese, I can look at these certification levels and read these descriptions and get a really clear understanding of what it is you're able to do. And you may have a job function if you've got an N5 and you just need to have daily conversations, at that company, then I know you can handle that with the N5. If you need to read technical documents and long pages with lots of text, I know you're going to need like an N2 or an N1 to be able to do that. These descriptions will help me understand that as an employer where your ability is. And it gives you a SMART goal. Who here has heard of this that wasn't at the JET thing yesterday? Yeah?
Certified teacher.
Okay, yeah. What I love about the JLPT is it automatically gives you a SMART goal for your Japanese language learning. And people use this acronym in different ways, often in the business world. But basically it's specific. You know when you're going to get there. You know when you get that certification, that's where you're at. It's measurable. It's quantified. It has a number to it. It's action-oriented. It's going to have some action verb that you physically do. You need to be realistic, which I'm going to talk about in terms of your ability and your level. And your SMART goal is also going to be time-based. It's going to have a schedule and have a deadline. So if we go back to that description of the different JLPT levels, we can see automatically it fits really nice into that SMART goal acronym. So even just for general language study, even if you thought, I'm not going to use Japanese in my career, or you don't have that ambition yet, even to give you a goal to head towards in your Japanese study, it works really effectively. So to register for the JLPT, I'm going to start here in the United States. What you do is you visit the organization's website who sponsors it, who handles it here in the U.S., which that's the American Association of Teachers of Japanese. And there's the website right there, and I can pull this up in Chrome here in a minute. In the U.S., and this is going to differ from other regions in Japan, here in the United States, August 28th through September 29th. You've got about that 1 month window to handle this application process on the website. It's going to cost you about it will cost $60 here in the U.S., 5,500 yen in Japan, and about that equivalent internationally. And so you got to get that application done by the end of September, and then it's going to be a couple months after that. December 3rd, 2017 is the date this year to take the test. The December date is always the first Sunday in December. The first Sunday in December is going to be that test date every year. So you folks who are looking for it, looking towards it in the future. Would you like to check out the website to see what that looks like? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here we are. This is the AATJ, American Association of Teachers Japanese website for the U.S. It's going to explain sort of about the JLPT, and then you just click on these links. It's got the date up there, and you'll click on these links and eventually follow that registration process through the website here in the U.S. If you're in Japan, for you Jets who are heading out, just go to the JLPT's main site, jlpt.jp. If you first go to it, it's by default in Japanese. You guys going for the N2 sort of level, I'd recommend you sort of force yourself to go through it in Japanese, just for your own ability. For everybody else who's at N5, you can turn the site into English up there at the top and follow the instructions for registering here if you're in Japan. So any questions about registering? Pretty cut and dry. Go to the website, register, pay the registration fee. You'll then get a test voucher, which you need to bring with you to the test site the day of. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Jon Gal. I do have the top level, the JLPT Level 1 certification. I also went on to get a master's degree in Japanese. And one story I'll tell you, when I applied to grad school in San Francisco for a Master of Arts in Japanese, I originally got this email back from the program director. And this wasn't what she said. She was a lot nicer, but the tone was kind of like, you don't have a bachelor's degree in Japanese. Your bachelor's degree was in audio recording. Who do you think you are to apply to grad school to get a master's degree in Japanese? Are you crazy or something? And then I just replied politely back, did you see my JLPT Level 1 certification in the application packet? And the response was something like, I'm sorry, welcome to the program. So that's sort of the power of having a JLPT certification. If you find yourself in a situation like that for a job or for grad school, again, it's really easy for people to understand. And in my case, it's like, do you speak Japanese? Yes, I'm JLPT 1 certified. Then the conversation's over. They know that that's a definite yes, you do. I also worked as the JET program coordinator here at the Consulate General of Japan in Nashville. So I sort of have been on that other side to hire people. So I have sat on the panel and interviewed Jets. A little disclaimer to this, anything I say as John Cinti in this video is not to be taken as an official statement of the JET program. I don't want to see out there like, hey, this JET coordinator guy, I heard he said if you get a JLPT, then you get on the JET program right away. You Jets are laughing because that's how it is in the Facebook groups and everything with all the rumors and speculation. So I'm not saying anything like that, but for JET, it definitely is beneficial. And I think most people studying, like getting a major in college, can get those lower levels, those N5s and N4s, before they do their JET program application. And full disclosure, I do teach here at the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute. Love what we do here. Big believer in TFLI's mission to bring language education to everybody. And I do this seminar completely voluntarily because having that JLPT Level 1 certification like I've talked about, that's been a big foundation of my career. That's been a big cornerstone of my success as a Japanese-English bilingual. And I just want to help other people achieve that same level of success. So again, any questions, just throw up the hands. So my personal history, I moved to Japan in 2003, and I took that December the Level 3. This is the old numbering system. It's a little higher than N4 right now. But that was the first level I took in 2003, and I passed it. And then a year later, I went up to the Level 2, and I passed it. Now, the next year, I'd been studying and everything, but I was really busy with work. Yeah.
I understand that you're JLPT 1 certified as well as a master's degree.
Yeah.
But is there anything higher than that?
Higher than that? You can go on to take the business test for Japanese. If you really want to, if you really hate yourself, that's out there, and that's also a benefit. If you are in Japan, there's another proficiency test called J-test. Pretty easy to remember. It's not offered in the States, but if you're over there in Japan, you can take J-test as well. And
What's so special about J-test?
J-test is not a pass-fail system like JLPT. It's a score out of 1,000 points. You can get 400 out of 1,000, you can get 700 out of 1,000, and you kind of know where you are based on that. It's not pass-fail. It's offered about 4 to 6 times a year, so a lot more frequently than the JLPT. And what I would do during this time period, definitely when I was getting ready for level 2, I was taking J-test as much as I could. You know, if it was offered 4 times a year, I took it all 4 times a year to get myself ready for this level 2 and level 1. And then when I got done with JET, a lot of people come back home. I stayed in Japan. I went to a language school for 6 months, specifically a JLPT level 1 prep course in Tokyo. And what we did in that course, every day we took a previous version of the JLPT level 1. The test started in 1984. So we started with the 1984 test, and then we would analyze what we got wrong. Our teacher would give us some of the hints and tricks that I'm going to share with you today. And then that next day, what do you think we did? We took the 1985 test. And I'll tell you, the 1984-85 test is like the N3 today. It was a lot easier. And we did that all the way up through the 2005 test. So not only have I taken the JLPT as many times as you see on the screen, I've taken the level 1 test from 84 to 2005. I've taken it 20-some times as part of that course. And so a lot of what I'm going to do today is when we take the practice exams, I'm going to ask what they're testing for. Our teacher she wouldn't go over the whole thing. She'd say, what did everybody get wrong? Okay, let's analyze it. Why'd you get it wrong? How did they trick you? Here's what they were looking for. And so that's what I want to do today is share with you a lot of this knowledge I got taking this class. So thanks to that, in 2006, I passed. And then I moved back from Japan, came to Nashville for a bit, then moved to San Francisco to go to grad school, like I told you about. And my university in San Francisco happened to be the San Francisco test site for the JLPT. So I was there anyway. I was in grad school. I took level 1 again. So this kind of shows you I am crazy that I've taken something that I already passed again and passed it again. So I'm like, okay, I've already passed this level 1 twice. What can I do? In 2010, I worked as a test proctor during an N3 test in San Francisco. So I do have that small bit of experience of being able to sit on the inside of planning the JLPT at a U.S. test site and helping out with that. So this is my experience that we'll be talking from today. Any more questions before we go on? Yeah.
Have you taken Kanji?
Kanji, no, I didn't. Yeah, when I was in Japan, that was what I was focusing on, like hardcore 100%. Kanji and may go back to your question, is a kanji test, and it's sort of more for Japanese people. Like my students who I taught in junior high school would take it. Chrissy or Alex, did you know people taking kanji while you were in Japan?
Nope.
Like kids at your school or anything? Okay. I remember some of my kids were like getting ready for it and studying with their Japanese teachers. But yeah, foreigners can take it as well. And it is like the kanji test for Japanese people.
Yeah, I've had students here that took it in Japan.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions? Great question. So I have a bit of a philosophy from which I come from. I talked about this yesterday at the JET thing. We could spend all day today talking about like thousands and millions of different resources and everything that are out there for how to learn kanji or whatever, and we'll introduce a few resources. But mainly what I like to talk about is fundamentals of what it takes to be successful. And these fundamentals are what support all these surface activities, what I call them. So really what I focus on is the fundamentals. What are the basic building blocks you need to be successful as a JLPT test taker? Now, so first you're going to need to determine what level you need to be at, which you can do through the JLPT website right here, and you can go to this section in English, and you can click on some sample questions to kind of grade where your level is at. I know most folks in here are starting at the N5 level, so it's pretty easy for you guys in this area. As I'm going to talk about, it's a really important decision to make which test you want to take first of all. So definitely go on the website to sort of judge your level before you register for the test. Now let's let's put a situation. Let's say we have two Jon Senseis here, Jon Sensei A and Jon Sensei B. We kind of have two thought presses here. So Jon Sensei A, he goes on the JLPT website, takes the N4 practice test, gets like a 94% on it, way too easy, bored. But you know what? He registers for that N4 anyway. Okay? Then Jon Sensei B is thinking, well, I took the N3 practice test. I did fail it, but only by a few points, like 12 points or so. I've got from now until December to make that up, so I'm going to register for the N3. What's your guys' thought process? And the Jet guys probably know where I'm getting with this because I talked about it yesterday. But everybody else, what would your thought process be if you found yourself in this situation? Which test would you register for, the A or B? You'd be B?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
B.
B?
B.
B?
Personally, I'd have to say A.
A? Okay.
I think it depends where you're at. Like if it's N4, then I think it should be B. But if he's N3 or
Swap it out. Swap out the number.
If you
Whatever
swap
you
it out,
like.
I think like when you get higher, maybe you should go for the more safe route because once you get to like N2 and N1, if you're at N2 and you're shooting for N1, I mean you can only go for N1 if you pass N2. But
Yeah.
at N3 to N2, if you're for sure that you can pass N3 and you haven't passed it before, then you should take it.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I don't know. It's a good
Okay.
gauge where you are.
Heard a lot of B's. I think B's kind of the stronger one. In my experience, and again, I started this in 1999. I'm like the old guy at this. I'm like the old guy who's telling you back in my day, and I know what's good for you. That's me. I understand most people don't want to listen to me, but I've interviewed hundreds of jets, talked about this type of thing in their jet interviews, traveled all over the South talking about learning Japanese. Come January 2018, here's what's going to happen. A gets his JLPT certification, and B failed the test and gets nothing. I've seen it hundreds of times. Hundreds. And it's breaking my heart. And that's part of why I do this seminar, because I'm tired of seeing people think like this and end up with nothing. Okay? So my advice, and when I see people fail like this, and it's breaking my heart, anybody know the 5 whys from the automotive industry? I know Alex does. We have to use this at work. You basically keep asking why. Why did they fail? Well, they registered for too high a test. Why did they register for too high a test? Because they were a Japanese major and thought they could take it. Why did they think that? You keep asking why till you can't ask why anymore. And what I see is a lot of people know there's a pass line for the JLPT. Depending on the level, you need to get about a 60 or 70%, to pass the test. So there's the pass line. Let's say this is 100%. This box is 100% of the material on it. And this pass line is just what you need to get that certification. The way I see people studying and preparing for this test is they're looking at that pass line as the goal. They're trying to do the skin of the teeth. They're trying to do the minimum amount of study and effort just to get that skin of the teeth certification. And if you have this mindset, what do you think happens when you take the real test? You come short. You end up about there. Or you end up somewhere about there. Okay, again, I've seen it 100 times. The proper way to approach this and to think about it is to aim for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land somewhere among the stars. Okay? If there's 100 kanji on N5, you want to know 200. If there's 1,000 on N2, you want to know 1,500. That's how you aim for it. And you're probably not going to get there, but you're going to land somewhere in that safe zone, in that pass zone. And if you think about what the JLPT is trying to accomplish, they are certifying you are capable of a certain level of Japanese language proficiency. They're not certifying people for getting it by the skin of their teeth. They're saying, yes, this person is in this green zone and is capable of this type of thing, whether working in Japan or at a company. So please approach it like this. Aim for the moon when you're setting out to study and register for the test. Most people who I've talked to who failed the test, they failed it when they registered. The moment they registered, they were already doomed because they kind of failed. They registered for a level that was a little too high for them. So my main piece of fundamental advice. Alex has a JLPT cert, right? But that's about it, okay? If you do not have a JLPT certification, come this December, when you walk into the test room, walk back out with something. Register for the highest level that you know you can pass without a doubt. Okay? On my website, I recommend a lot of sort of success books and business books for people to read. And what they all say is that to be successful, to be effective, you focus on the results that you've achieved and not the activity that you've committed yourself to. Results, not activity, results. So studying, doing a study abroad, going on the JET program, being an English teacher in Japan, all of this is activity. The JLPT certification in your hand, that's the result. And you'll be measured by the results you achieve out in the real world when it comes to getting a job or something in the future. You agree with that, Alex?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I've actually gone through a lot. I mean, doing the job hunt when I came back from Japan. And right now I'm certified in level 3. Barely failed the level 2 a couple years ago. But it's not until I actually speak with one of the headhunters or get into the actual interview if I can get in. A lot of companies will just see that number next to the JLPT certified, and you're either in pile A, which is acceptable, or pile B, which is not. I've gotten lucky and gotten in and actually started speaking with them, and kind of convinced my way from there. But you miss a lot of opportunities because a lot of this stuff is just yes or no.
Right.
It's concrete based. And what you were saying earlier about the aiming for more, studying for the in level 2. The test itself can be frustrating because there's so many there's so many kanji you got to know, there's so many words you got to know, and the test, they're just taking a portion of all this knowledge of this language, which is not something you can BS your way through and get down to 50% on most multiple choice, because you don't know what percent and where they're going to take these questions from out of this whole spectrum of knowledge. So it can be frustrating. It's like, I know all these words, none of them were on the test, But,
Yeah.
So you got to really, like John said, aim for more. So it doesn't really. So you're really confident that no matter where they pick and choose from, you're going to be okay.
Exactly. Thank you. So I have paid to license this photo because I think it's pretty effective. I have often sat in this position as the job interviewer. And kind of like what Alex was saying, when you get to that interview or you're filling out that application, the question is, are you JLPT certified? That's a yes or no question. And the story I often hear is, well, I studied in Japanese in college and I majored in it and I did a study abroad and I saw this job needed an N2, so I registered for N2 and I failed it only by like 12 points or so, come on. And that's basically a long way to say no when it comes to answering that question. Really. And if I went out to somebody on the street and was like, are you JLPT certified? I have no idea what you're talking about. You're a creep. Get away from me. That's another way to say no. And no is pretty much equivalent to no in both mindsets, even though you've worked hard and you have studied and you have learned a lot. You want to make sure you answer yes to that yes or no question. Yes, I'm N3 certified, even if that's a lower level than what you wanted. As we talked about activity versus results. This story right here, studying abroad, all of that. This is just activity. Yes, I've got an N5 certification. Even though it's the lowest level, that's a result. That's something the world can never take away from you. That is a result which you will be measured by as you go forward in your career. So, these are the stories I hear all the time. That one, I was a major. I studied in college. I studied abroad, so I wanted it into. I was on JET for 3 years. What I say to people, they go on JET for 3 years, and in Japan you can take it December and July, as I talked about. And those whole 3 years, they never take the test, and come July of their 3rd year, they register for N2, and then as soon as they take the test, they've got to get on the plane back to the United States. What do you think happens? They fail it. They fail it. When they get back to the States and they get that certification, it has a big fail on it. And they don't have anything to use in their job hunt now that they're back in the States. And that they're back in the States, it's going to be harder to get the N2. Alex is talking about he's been struggling with that. Yeah. So it would have been much more efficient to that person during their 3 years on the JET program to take N5, and the next year get their N4, and the next year get their N3, and climb up that ladder as opposed to waiting around until one day they could get the N2. The other story I hear is kind of what we talked about in this situation. Somebody takes a practice test. They're only skimming it by a few points, that higher level, so they register for it. Like Alex said, what they were studying might not have appeared on that test, and they fail it by only, how many, what'd you say for N2?
1 point.
1 point. Failing it by 1 point is still failing it by 1 point.
Man, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
My total score was passing, but
Yeah.
my comprehension was 19. I had to have 20.
Yeah.
That's so tragic.
That is tragic. It is tragic. That's why I'm trying to help people with it. The other story, I've heard this. I can put 2 names to faces for this exact story, and maybe even a third one. I think it's. I took N5 and I passed it. So next year I took N4 and I failed it. So then that next year, I'm gonna go ahead and take N3 because that's where I want to be. That's where I feel I am. And that's really a flawed approach to it. If you failed N4, what that says is you are not N4 material. If you are not N4 material, then by default, by definition, you are not N3 material. Okay? And this also comes back to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is a business book, but this talks about basic human development. All of us, everybody in here is human, right? All of us have to go through this development and learning process. That if you are a 2 on a 10-point scale and you want to be a 5, you must first go to 3. No matter what it is in life, you don't get to skip the steps like that. A baby has to learn to crawl before it can run. That's all of us all throughout our lives. But I hear this story a lot, and that's what I'm trying to do is prevent these stories. If we think about the risk-reward scenario, you want that higher level, that N3, N2, N1, and you take it because you were a Japanese major or whatever. There's that risk you might fail it, but what was the reward? What did you get in return? You don't have anything. You don't have that JLPT. Whereas the N3 or the N4, that lower level, less risk, but almost a guarantee of a reward at the end. So it's about running a risk-reward scenario like we would in business. Another piece of fundamental advice for those of you who've taken this year, or you guys who take it in the future. On that Sunday this year, December 3rd, 2017, there is nothing in the world during that 4-hour period or so that is more important to you than taking the JLPT. You need to make life distraction-free for a few hours. How do we do that? Here's some advice. Get plenty of sleep. Okay, sounds pretty basic, but I know people who stay up all night studying and don't get enough sleep. Have a healthy breakfast. I say regulate because I love salsa-drenched breakfast burritos in the morning, but if I'm going to take a test that day, it might not work so well with my stomach a few hours into that test. Same thing for lunch. Sometimes you'll get a lunch break. You'll have to come back from lunch and then take the rest of the test. Something like Taco Bell might not be such a great idea. Get everything off your mind. If you've got to go shopping later that day, have a shopping list and don't think about shopping. If you've got things to do later that week, have a to-do list. I use an app like Trello. You guys know what Trello is? I love Trello. It's like this sort of to-do list board. So put everything in a Trello board or a to-do list to get everything off your mind. And the big one, leave the cell phone off. Not in manner mode, not in airplane mode. Turn it off, or even better, leave it home. Unless you need your map to see where you're going. The big story with this, when I was taking the level 1 the second time in San Francisco, during one section of the test, this woman's cell phone went off. And just loud, big old ringtone and everything. And depending on where your test site is, they may have different systems. When I was in Japan, they had yellow cards and red cards, like in soccer. And something like a cell phone going off was a red card offense. And what a red card meant was when that section of the test was done, you don't get to come back for the rest of it. And that was kind of the rule with her. When we were turning in our test, the proctor said, look, your cell phone went off. You're not eligible to sit for the rest of the test today. And she was very upset, as you could probably guess. And she got all, and like a huff and a puff. It was like, I've got kids, and they're out there, and there could have been an emergency. There's got to be somebody I can talk to about this. there could have been an emergency with my kids. And they're like, okay, you can go talk to the administration office, down the hall, room 301. Needless to say, she wasn't back when we came back from the break that afternoon. If you've got kids, they need to be with someone who can handle an emergency or whatever. They need to be somewhere safe. All of this needs to be taken care of before you get into that test room. One of my book recommendations is a book called Deep Work from Cal Newport. It talks about a lot of how the cell phones and everything, having a distracted mind is really bad for us in the long term and trying to focus and concentrate on something like a test, so I highly recommend that book. A few more tips for the day of the test. Listen to the test proctor. The woman whose cell phone went off, did she get anything out of arguing with the test proctor? No. I've seen it a lot where what they do is they distribute the books and they'll tell you, akenaide kudasai, if you're in Japan. Akenaide kudasai. Akenaide kudasai. And as soon as they get over here, this person right here opens up the test booklet. You've seen it, Alex?
Man, I can't tell you. People picking up pencils, and they're like, they say, do not pick up your pencil, do not open the book.
Yeah.
Every time they hand out the test. They pick up the pencil, they got yellow cards. And
Yeah.
And then they would just stare at the person, the proctor, because the proctor's speaking Japanese. And I don't know how they're planning on passing this test if they don't pick up what they're putting down. But they're just still holding the pencil while they're telling them, put down your pencil. Here's a card. Put down the pencil. Put down the pencil.
Maybe that's a hint that they're not ready for the
Yeah.
test.
Yeah,
Just
that was...
saying.
Because the first time to me, I was taking level 3, and they kept being like, akenaide kudasai, while she's holding up. She's like, huh? Akenaide kudasai. Huh? And it's like they gave her that chance, and they're like, here's your yellow card.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut the book for you.
Yeah.
So you definitely listen to the proctor's instructions. These are not people to argue with, even if you think you're right, because they hold the power to maybe, fail you in that test. So listen to the proctor's instructions. If you get sick, stay home. There's no way that you can take the suck out of that situation, that you're going to have to wait a whole year. But when I was a test proctor, there was one guy coughing, sniffling, sneezing, and carrying on for the first part. And when we got done with that, he turned in his test and was like, I can't do it, and went home. And if you're out there listening to this, you did the right thing. Okay? That had to be, I can't imagine how bad he must have felt in that situation. But especially when you get to the listening tests and everything, if you're coughing, whatever you got going on, you just need to write it off that year. Stay home if you get sick. You might want to take something to do during the breaks to kind of get your mind off of it. I used to read manga. What would you do?
I took it in Japan, I think. We had like a lunch break. So
You had a
I
lunch
eat
break?
lunch and just shooting the breeze with a few friends.
Okay. Well, how about you, Chrissy?
Yeah, I didn't remember any big breaks.
Any
so
big
just
breaks like lunch
probably.
break? Yeah, they're not that long. One thing I would advise against is trying to do last-minute study and to panic. Like, oh, I don't know that kanji. It's in my flashcard. Oh, God, what am I going to do for the rest of the afternoon? You could put yourself in a worse state of mind than you already were and perform worse on the test. Any questions about this type of thing? Day of, or Alex or Christy, you have any other advice for when you're in that room? You got to get up that morning and catch the bus or whatever. Figure out what train.
Pack your stuff before you go to bed the night before. Just so
Okay.
you're not getting up, looking through your bag. I only had one pencil, I need two. Things like that.
Yeah.
I got there one day, I didn't have my watch. I was pretty upset.
Yeah. Dion, you said you could have used a watch when you took it. Yeah.
They took the clocks out of the wall for no apparent reason other than just to mess with people who forgot their watches that day.
Uh-huh.
Was not happy about that. Which is mean.
So watch my hand. You gotta be careful it doesn't have an alarm or anything on it.
Definitely. You should get like the cheap little, or a stopwatch or something. Anything cheap little dollar store thing would work as long as it can just take time.
Would you agree with that? You told me a good story the other day. What was kind of your situation?
Well, my situation was, the night before I was panicking because there was a few I did read. It's kind of like that. I saw Kanji on the flashcard in my notes. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I ended up kind of freaking out, and I went to bed later than I should have. So I got up in the morning, and I had to rush over to the test site. and I got in there, and as soon as I sat down at my desk, I noticed that on everybody else's desk they had all these other things, like they had stopwatch or all these other things that they could bring in the room.
Yeah.
But I had no idea. I did not do my research I should have to know that I could have had a stopwatch. Because if I would have had that stopwatch, I probably would have been able to time myself more efficiently during the test and manage my time. Because I ran out of time on one section because I didn't. I was spending way too much time, and I had no indication because they took the clock out of our room too.
Trying to try.
It's not going to make a noise. It's a sound. It's like a battery powered wall clock, and they just like, nope, no, thank you.
Yeah. You guys are bringing up great points. You need the pencils, the stopwatch. You'll need your test voucher. You'll need your ID. So if you guys are in Japan, you need to make sure you have your passport on you at the test site. Everybody else, your driver's license. When you go in there, you may have to leave those things on the desk for the proctors to see. Anything else? You got anything for a day
I
up?
think your general advice about taking care of yourself
Yeah.
is very important, because if you go to sleep early and you're like, you got your stuff together the night before and you're just like ready for it, then it's a good feeling. You're just going in and you're gonna do it, you know.
Right.
And then you're not like all frantic
Right.
in the morning. Yeah. And
Very
you know
good.
where you're going.
Is there anything beneficial taking the JLPT in Japan opposed to in the States?
When you get to those higher levels, like the N2, N1, it's going to help you a lot to actually be in Japan, just to have more stimulus, hear it more often here in the States. Maybe, Alex, you can speak to that, because you've been trying to take N2 since you came back from Japan.
Especially for the higher levels, but like you said, just in Japan, you know, you study, the way I remember when I first started studying Kanji, and I think maybe taking level 4 now, I guess it would be. I highly recommend a book called Right Now, Kanji for Beginners. It's a great one. But I was using that book, and then I would be out that day and see like the kanji that I had just got done studying, you know, like an hour earlier, like at the train station or on the wall of like some building, and I could understand it, so it would, you know, solidify it for me. The biggest difference between America and Japan's side, I would say, is Japan is very strict with their rules. I mean, they do have like the warning system with the yellow cards and things, but it's very straightforward. And this, you know, don't pick up your pencil, don't open the book, and that's it. And nobody else speaks. There's nothing going on in that room but test silence, and like they're going to play a recording soon. In America, it varies. Like I think it depends on who the proctor is and maybe the location, but it is they can be much more relaxed and talkative between the test and things like that. Like I remember my proctor was talking about his, you know, Japanese wife and telling these just crazy military stories from living in Japan. It's kind of disturbing.
So you can be like, it's kind of cool to hear about his experience.
The beginning it was, the stories got darker as the test went along. It was a weird day.
Yeah.
And like, you know, people kind of talk and stuff. It's just, it's a different environment. But yeah, I would just, if you do what, you know, John was talking about, and you go in there prepped and like you're set on what you're going to do, you can kind of just work on tuning things out around you, which I think is more important to do in the stateside than Japan, because everyone is so gun-ho and, you know, just, it's just like riding a bus. You know, ride a bus in America, ride a bus in Japan. There's a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I prefer Japan.
yeah, me too. Like I say, I don't want to hear about what you're doing tomorrow. You know, when they're talking to their friend next to me, it's like, that's why I have these now. But yeah, you got to be able to tune things out around you, distractions. More on the American side than I would think than Japan side.
Yeah. Well, the thing I will say, as a test proctor in San Francisco, you know, the instructions are pretty standardized, whatever test site you go to. And I was instructed as the proctor to read those instructions in English. Because I thought those of us who were being proctors were chosen because we had Japanese ability or already had a JLPT, but then they were like, here's your instructions, just read this in English. Whereas in Japan, you know, it's going to be in Japanese. All the proctor instructions and everything are going to be in Japanese. Asked around in the JET Alumni Association for people to share some success stories. And one member, Joanna, she wanted to be here today, but she wasn't in town. Wishing you guys the best of luck. She suggested this resource, the Kanzen Master series. You heard about this?
I have the N1 books.
You have these books?
I used them in school over in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually took an N1 course prep class and I used those books.
Okay. What can you tell us about these books, like how they're arranged or set up?
I think they're relative. I mean, I think for me, that once you get used to the pattern, it's really easy to kind of follow, and you can kind of hit each grammar point or hit kind of. You can take tests. There's a lot of test questions and test examples you can do, and then based on that, you can kind of see after that they have some detailed explanation on why there's some of the more common ways people miss it, or why they do it, or why they, and how you can avoid that. And I thought they were really good. I have the there's a Chokai and a Dokai one. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're really good resource, I think.
What you just said, yeah, I've flipped through both of these resources, and I like the Kanzen Master series better because of what you just said. They give you the sort of practice test questions, and then give you the explanations and sort of compile. These are the words that have appeared on the JLPT in the past, and give you those explanations. She says this series, the So Matome, Nihongo So Matome series, got her through to N2. This series, though, I just feel like is more practice test. It doesn't give you as good of explanations as the Kanzen Master series does. Yeah.
I actually brought some of these just for...
Oh, yeah? Yeah, show them to us.
I mean, I'll just pass them around if you want to take a look. I actually really like this series, especially for... Did I keep the right one? Yeah, like the Kanji, or which one was it? Yeah, the Kanji book, or the vocab book. I think they're really good. It gives you like a daily, like 12 to 15. It gives you example words, and that's a big thing for me. When I'm studying a kanji, learning to write it and practice writing it is one thing, but a lot of the kanji don't really appear by themselves all that often. They're in the word, so seeing it paired up with common occurrences is really good for me personally. So I actually, but the reading comprehension of this book is I don't really like it that much. It's good for maybe two questions that have there's always something about a hotel. Like this is a thing from a hotel on it. These many people are in, and there's like a excerpt for like discounts if you come with a group or something. And that actually has good examples of that part, those questions, but the rest of the reading comprehension is not that great for that series. I think the Kanzen Master is probably better. Yeah, the level 3 and level 2, I thought those books were really good. Except, the reading comprehension was good enough.
Are those on Amazon?
Yeah, they're on Amazon in the States, also in Japan. The prices I saw were about $15, $12 to $15 a book. If you think there's like five sections of the test, 5 books times $15, you might think it gets pretty expensive, but it's a good investment. Again, you've got that one chance in a year to take it. It's a good idea to make this kind of investment in it. I don't know if you know how much that series costs, the So Matome series. I think about the same.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Also, around the room, I've kind of scattered the practice tests. These are issued by the Japan Foundation and the organizations that design the JLPT itself. They've got N2, N1 over there. I think I had N5. Where did that book? Okay, it's right there. And N3, N4 over here. This test is an exact replica of what the real JLPT is like. In terms of its sections, it tells you how many minutes the test will be. It has the CD for the listening test. It has the correct answers, of course, in the back. It has the scripts for the listening tests in the back. And so what you'll definitely want to do before you register is find one of these books. Again, about $12 to $15 or that equivalent on Amazon, and take one of these tests. See where you're at, but also see where your weaknesses are. Some people said reading comprehension was an area they were weak in. If you can fail this practice test and learn that before you go into the real thing, then you can start addressing your reading comprehension skills. Back in the day, here we go, back in my day again, They used to actually sell the test itself. So, for example, the 2000, if you took the 2005 test in December, maybe by June of 2006 in the Japanese bookstore, you could have bought that 2005 test. But they quit doing that a few years ago and just have these general tests that imitate the real thing, so they don't have to update it every year. You could simulate with this book the real test-taking experience, what it'll be like for you on that day, following how many minutes of test time you get and everything like that. Yeah.
Which section of the test for you was the more difficult or most time-consuming?
Time-consuming will probably say reading comprehension. You can go on the JLPT's website. I'm hesitant to pull up Chrome because it messes with the display. But, or you can flip through those test books right there, and they'll tell you usually reading comprehension you get more time on, but it's also going to be more time consuming because you have to read a big passage and then ask questions. Listening is usually the shortest because they just play the track, and when it's over, it's over.
They
For me,
separated it
yeah.
now. Like I remember the first time I took the test, and it might have been because of the level, but there was listening, there was grammar and vocab, and then there was a reading comprehension section. But now it's just listening and then everything else.
Yeah. There's still 5 sections, which I'm going to break down, but they group them.
The actual time of the test, like
Yeah.
the way the test is taken. And from, definitely the questions and area of the section of the test would be reading comprehension.
So reading comprehension for you. What was most difficult, Dion or Chrissy, you guys who have taken the JLPT? What section was the most difficult for you?
Oh my gosh. I have to say, I took it 14 years ago. I don't really remember. I don't remember one part being harder than the others. It might have been, but I've just forgotten.
The whole thing?
Sorry.
Reading? Reading comprehension? Yeah.
Short answer. Well, not the short answer, but like these types of questions where
Okay.
about any subject. It's like they'll give you a passage about reading about some particular thing.
Right. They may give you an article or a passage about
Any
space travel,
Yeah, I got
garbage
one.
disposal.
Yeah,
I got one about space travel. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like
the environment.
The environment.
It's like the
Politics.
Some college students like a thesis paper and just took an excerpt out of it. Or
Yeah.
something. Just stick it in there like every year.
So I mean that's it. Like, you know, I was a musician, so maybe I know a lot of music vocabulary. If it were a passage about music or live music, I might do well with it. If it were about science or something else, I might really struggle with reading. And again, you don't know what type of articles or content they're going to have for both reading comprehension and listening. Some other resources I want to recommend for you guys are SRS, Spaced Repetition Software. Flashcards. We talked about this in the JET thing yesterday. Anybody use any of these specific apps? Alex, what do you use?
I have Anki.
Anki? Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I use.
used since I started taking the test. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else use? Yeah, Marissa?
I use Memrise a lot.
Memrise? Okay.
Yeah, I tried Tiny Cards.
But you preferred Memrise?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I use both Memrise and Tiny Cards.
Okay. Anybody else use Sticky Study? That's one I've heard a lot of good things about. What's sort of the advantage or the special feature of using these kind of apps? Yeah.
I mean, I like that I can, instead of scrolling Facebook while I'm waiting for something, I can always just pull up the app, study some Japanese.
It's there
I
anytime.
can do it anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Back in our day, you had to haul around the stack of note cards with the rubber band, and the rubber band would break, and then they would get all in your backpack. Yeah. You don't have to deal with that anymore. But really, the strength of the SRS app is that the things that are really easy for you, those cards are going to start to go away, and the ones you keep getting wrong that you're really struggling with, those are going to keep showing up. So especially with JLPT, a big key to success is identifying where you're weak at. And that's what this card can do through its usage. It can identify what type of words you're weak at and keep showing you those words more often. So that frequency will help you get them down.
I have a question that's related to apps. I have like a Kanji app for JLPT that I've been using, and I don't know if it's any good or if it's actually going to help me, but it's a lot of fun and it's really easy to use. So I've been using it for a little while.
What's it called?
It's blue and it's just called JLPT. And it has Kanji for the lower level tests.
Okay.
So for for N5, N4, and N3, and you just it'll just show you a kanji, and you pick out of 4 what the answer is.
Okay, so just like the test itself.
I think so, but
Yeah.
I'm not like I can't remember that well what the test was like, and
Yeah, that's
like
okay.
for example, let's say there's a verb and it ends with do,
Mhm.
and there may only be one answer
Mhm.
that ends with do, and so that's like really easy. You don't even have to really be able to read the kanji. You just can figure it out. So I don't remember the test being that easy. So I was like, is this really the way it is, or?
Okay, I guess you're
Yeah.
first.
I believe the app you're talking about, it's a mirror version of what they have for practice online.
Okay.
So if you'll go to their site, you can actually find practice phenomenon. So that's a mirror of that same application form.
So
Okay.
this Kanji JLPT has a website to it?
I believe so.
Okay.
And if you look up JLPT apps, there's a lot of them
100.
that show up.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have a good one?
I have an app that I use pretty much for everything Japanese related at all times. It's a dictionary, JLPT practice. It's called Imiwa. People may have been able to use that a lot. And it's the best app I've ever used in my life for anything Japanese related.
Better than jisho.org, that website.
I've used this
Yeah.
since 6 years ago. I've used it a lot. I think it's on iOS and Android. But on the side, it's like there's a in the little side window. You might be able to see it. There's JLPT, and it tells you per level which kanji you should know for each level.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know like N5 kanji, they're all here, and then go back. If you want to know N4, you have to know these plus N3, and then pretty much and then from there. And I've used it for everything. There's an analyzer, and then you can, if you ever see a kanji in a book, you don't know how to read it, you can kind of like go by radical and find out which one it is in the app.
Mhm.
Like it's really helpful for me.
Okay. I've not heard of that one, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Amy was good.
It was a good one?
And I have
Okay.
one that just says that that's Japanese.
Yeah, we've talked about
We
this.
talked about that one. I like it because you can make your own study list as you go through it, and it has like a fun little opening screen that just has random words floating by. And if you see one you don't know, you can just click it and it'll pop up. It's got lots of example sentences. But I think you'll find a lot of these apps, they're kind of pulling all their examples from the same locations, so you'll see a lot of the same example sentences and things.
Right.
But it also has the JLPT separations. It also has a cool thing where it's like you can break the words down by classification. So like, there's like, for example, so you have kana, kanji, classifications, lexical categories, and JLPT. Classifications is like art, agriculture, archaeology,
Okay.
chemistry,
I'm going to
fishery,
adjust
geology.
that.
So, like for example, I'm in the automotive business, so there's things for business, and there's metallurgy.
Okay.
So,
No, that's important.
yeah, it actually helped me out pretty good.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just really like, the reason I always check for new apps about once every 6 months. I'll just kind of go on and just see what's new.
Uh-huh.
But one of the cool things I always liked was just this little screen at the beginning, because it's kind of fun.
Uh-huh.
And then words just kind of float by like a screensaver, and I see something I haven't seen, I think I know, or one I've never seen before, I just click it and see if I got it right or wrong. Or if it's something I didn't know in the first place, I had no idea what it was, just put it in my list.
Okay.
But it's just Japanese, it's all it's called.
They were lucky to get that name for the app. Yeah. Kind of jealous, yeah.
In addition to Imiwa, there's also Yomiwa.
Yomi?
Yomiwa?
Wa?
Yeah, Yomiwa. And if you're like this book, for example, if I couldn't read the kanji for it, I take my phone camera and look and just scan it, and it'll put furigana above it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You usually right. Sometimes
Yeah, it's
kinda
easier.
hard. But at least you can, even if it doesn't show the exact reading, you can see the radical and the individual meanings of the content, so you can kind of
Okay.
get an idea.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm like, where was that?
And you can also
14
write,
years ago.
you can also write in the kanji like with like put it in yourself.
Okay, right, with
the
your
stroke,
finger, and
yeah,
it'll
with your
recognize.
And it'll at least
character?
give you,
Yeah.
try to recognize what you.
Okay.
I think I'm going to head out for the next section, but just
Yeah.
as far as taking the test, me personally, I remember when I was living in Japan, I've been studying Japanese for about a year and a half, like, seriously. Once I got the first 6 months, I thought, we'll just see how the osmosis thing works. It doesn't work.
Yeah. But in chair time, that's what I told you Jets the other day. You got to sit in the chair. Your
Yeah.
butt in the chair with your books out. Your
You have
pencils
to
and
put in the
your
time.
apps.
I
Yeah.
used Anki, and I would go through like one of the books, like they say this one, you know, have my little notebook that's like at the dollar store item that has the little squares you can practice your kanji in
Yeah.
for kids.
Genko Yoshi, Japanese manuscript paper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I miss those books. Man.
Yeah, you can't get it in the States. So for you guys going to Japan, you'll go to the 100 yen store and get you some manuscript paper. This is what Japanese students write their essays in. Basically like 20 blocks by 20 blocks or something like that. It looks almost like
they have
graph
different
paper.
sizes actually. You can-
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's different ones like size 2, size 1.5. Things
Yeah.
like that. Or it's like or how many squares per column is basically.
Right,
And I think it's up to 20. I think there's like 10, 20, 15, and 12 maybe.
right. But a good substitute here in the States is just graph paper. This is what I recommend people use so that you're writing kanji over and over and over again. And that's exactly what I use. I use the Genko Yoshi, the manuscript paper. I wrote the kanji 20 times.
And then I put it. I
Make a
do the
flashcard.
kanji, then I do a word with the
Yeah.
like like a word. If I said it like ball, a word for ball or something, and I would do like baseball, and then I would make an Anki card in my computer because I didn't have smartphone.
Right.
But that honestly, that was the year that I just remember, because the goal was measurable and everything, and I think you become more driven when you have like a concrete target date and goal.
Yeah.
And my Japanese improved more that year, I think, and rapidly improved than any other year. And then, of course, after that, I guess it's all comparative, studying before and then after taking that test, because from then on I started focusing on the test more.
Uh-huh.
But I highly, good luck to everybody who's going to take it. I highly recommend it. It does open doors, and it will provide opportunity, and it does take a lot of work. There is no BS in this test. There's no BS. I don't think there's any BSing in any kind of language learning process. It's long and difficult, but once you get it, it's yours. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Alex.
Best of luck to everybody.
The last piece of advice for me in this section is something from one of my favorite books, The Education of Millionaires. Basically, without failure, there's no learning. That you have to fail to learn. You have to get knocked down to learn how to get back up. And that doesn't mean go take N2 and fail it. We've talked about that enough. It means like in Alex's case, he's already got his N3 and he keeps taking that N2 and keep failing it. That he's doing the right thing. Okay? That's what you need to be doing. Don't be afraid of making mistakes or failing, because that is the way you're going to learn and eventually become successful on this test. That concludes the first part of this seminar. What we're going to do for the rest of the day is dive into the 5 sections of the test. As some of us have talked about, they'll be grouped together, but basically you must pass each section. People have talked about they've got a passing score on the whole test, failed reading comprehension section by 1 point, and they fail the whole test. If you fail one section, you don't get a certification. So that's what I'm going to do for now, is dive into each section and talk about how it's structured and some of the things you need to pay attention to.
I have some questions for you guys. These are your future Japanese. These are like high school and middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'd like for you guys to tell them give them some advice, because this is their first time going through this. I've told them 5 million times, you must take the JLPT. So if you guys could give them some advice, because we have like from 13 to 17 up, if you guys could give them advice, it'd be very helpful for them.
What are you guys looking to get out of, Japanese? Because there's 2 different thoughts.
Especially you two.
Anyway, I'm just really taking the JLPT test as a grading system to see how proficient I am.
Okay.
So,
For me, Japanese is something that's really caught my attention and I fully zoned in on. It's the only thing I can really put all my thoughts and put into it. And so it's something I also enjoy, so something I would like to use as a career.
Okay. Yeah, so I just have a pretty strong opinion on the JLPT versus actual being able to converse with people, because I know people that pass N2 and N1 can't talk.
Yeah,
Japanese
really?
people. So
Seriously?
Yeah,
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
my Chinese friends, because they already
Oh,
know
yeah,
kanji, and they're kind of faking their way through it, but their
Yeah.
spoken Japanese is
or their
It's really
pronunciation
terrible.
is just awful. Like,
Yeah.
constantly.
But wouldn't you have to pass like vocabulary and grammar?
Yeah, but it doesn't affect like how you
There's
speak.
no
Yeah.
speaking
Oh.
portion. There's no
So,
speaking portion of it.
The reason I asked what you want to get out of Japanese is like you can just study really hard to pass the test, but still not actually know Japanese.
Right.
Essentially, like you would come off as not knowing Japanese. So I don't know. I had to figure that out for myself, and like I want to know Japanese, but I just want this for like my own personal, goals, I guess.
These are the younger ones. These
Yeah.
are the youngins.
these are the future.
These are the
We're here to guide them.
Mine's the kind of same for her. I want to. I want more of a career with including Japanese, and I also want to move there. Like
Okay.
like I love doing Japanese, and it's just interesting to me.
I have to agree with you, Judy.
Yeah.
They're all nervous, as you can see.
What a cop out. That's so good.
I would say, they are starting young, though,
Yeah.
when you think about the
Really.
rest of us. I started from zero when I was 19, you know.
Soon. My
Yeah,
first class was 20.
so that's great to be having that head start. Like, when you look
It
to
is.
take Japanese classes in college, you'll be that much further ahead of your
Oh,
classmates. When you go to apply to the JET program or work in Japan, again, you're going to have those extra few steps ahead of everybody else. So I think that's great. So are we ready? Are we ready to deep dive into characters?
Let's go.
Let's go. So the first page is going to start off.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's going to start off with this question. This is sample question number 1. If you can find that on your handout, what you're doing is you're selecting the hiragana reading for that underlined kanji. This is an N5 question. So we're just going to take a second or two to give everybody a chance to read that and choose what you think the correct answer is for sample question number 1. And one thing I do in my classes, a lot of people aren't comfortable with it, but I love it when students make mistakes. I am so happy when students make mistakes, because that shows me you're trying, that shows me your brain's starting to put the rules together. And so if I maybe ask somebody to read something and you make a mistake on it, don't feel embarrassed by that, because you have made my day. How's everybody doing? Is everybody good with sample question number 1? Are we all finished? Okay. What did you guys have as a correct answer?
1.
Okay, we have a 1.
Two.
We have a
Sorry,
2.
Yeah. Two to do.
I hear it as 2 in my head. So.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's 2.
It is 2. It is 2. The correct answer is number 2.
I
Yeah.
remember.
You couldn't remember?
I couldn't remember if there's a ooh.
That's a mean
Yeah.
one. Honestly,
So-
that is a mean one.
So that's what we're going to do after each of these questions is we're going to look at the correct answer and we're asked what's being tested. They're trying to get you with something. They're trying to test you with something. What is it?
Small, like the sound, and elongated sound.
Okay. Yeah. Short versus long vowel. That's kind of what tripped us up. Is it 1 or is it 2? And that's what they're trying to get us on. That short vowel in number 1 or that long vowel in number 2. So that right there, that's the fundamental. That's something they're going to try to get you with in some of these questions. And what I find we do is like you said, Stephen, you hear it in your head a certain way, and you're not really thinking about how it's written out in hiragana. The big word I used to do that with is, how do I say class in Japanese?
Kurasu.
Yeah. Okay? That's what I want.
Jugyo.
Yeah, that's what I want. Here's the kanji for that, okay? For class.
Oh, whether.
But which one is it?
It's all of it.
All of it. It's all of it.
Number 1.
We say the word for class so often in class, we might forget how we write it. What do you guys think the answer is? 1? Number 1? Okay. It's number 3.
Oh God.
And I used to do the same thing. The way I learned this is I was in Japan on JET, and I was texting my Japanese girlfriend after work every day, and I would say, like, I had 5 classes today, Jugyo, Itsutsu ga Hata, or something like that. And I was typing number 1. And if I can bring the word up, that there is a Jugyo. but it means like an employee or an enterprise. So there is that word, but it's a completely different word. So the correct answer to this for how to write it out in hiragana is number 3. So the danger is we have all these words, senshu, jugyo, that we're so comfortable with saying and speaking, but they're going to get you on how do you write it out in hiragana. And so as you practice, as you're making flashcards, it's important to stay conscious of this, because that's what we're not doing. We're not staying conscious of it. So make that extra step to stay conscious of how it's written out in hiragana. Yeah.
Well, there's one thing I wanted to say is
sure.
It's easy to get like adjusted to like, because most phones have autocorrect nowadays.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. That's why I usually do that.
I can just write it barely, and I don't have to think about it anymore. I can just write the first Jew, and then usually it'll just show up. And so it kind of.
And if you recognize that kanji for class, you know that's the right one I want. You're not thinking about it. Yeah. Oh, you have a question?
Before we move on, I have very little Japanese language background. Compared to everyone, I guess. But what is it? Is asking for the meaning of each kanji, how to write them out?
Basically, for senshu, how would you write those kanji out in hiragana?
So what are the other things next to it, the other words in katakana and hiragana?
So that's a sentence. I'm sorry, I should have read that sentence for you. So we'll start doing that when we do the sample questions. Thank you for pointing that out. Senshu, depato ni kaimono ni ikimashita. So you could read that sentence and know that, maybe translate it in your head and say, okay, last week I went to the department store for some shopping, to do shopping. Okay. There are, in the N5, it's not going to happen so much. And a bad habit I have, but you bring up a point when I've taken this test, is I've just looked at that word and picked an answer. When you get into the higher difficulties, you can have 2 kanji in a word, and they'll be read differently depending on the context of the sentence. So at those higher levels, you will need to be reading that sentence. Okay. Make sure you understand the context of the situation and that you choose the correct reading.
Okay, so the sentence just gives context to
what it just gives context. Right. Right. And I actually took these from the N5 book that we got floating around here. So the same thing, let's go on to sample question 2. I don't want to read it, or I'd give the answer. So, so everybody take a minute with that. Let me know when you're done. But again, it lets you know. It lets you know what you're counting, what type of object you're counting, and so you need to choose the correct reading for that counter word that's up there.
Good with counters?
Anybody good with them?
I hate counters.
You hate counters?
I just use the standard thing. I just use the thing. Not to.
Okay. Okay. Have we all finished sample question number 2? Who's going to try it out?
I have.
You have? Mm-hmm. Okay. Would somebody like to read the sentence with the answer? Go ahead. Okay. What's our correct answer? Number 4. That's our correct answer. Impitsu ga 6本あります. So to go back to your question, this gives us the context that we're counting pencils, and pencils have a different counter word than, say, computers and cars or other types of objects. So we're gathering from that context, we're counting pencils. We know that we've got 6 pon, and the reading is 6本. So what are we being tested on here? Roppongi? That's the reason you knew? It's a part of Tokyo. We'll leave it at that. What's being tested in this question?
Your knowledge of counters.
Counters, yeah. Testing the counters. What specifically with counters? What's going on here? Irregular. An irregular counter. And whether we have that small tsu. So we had choices of like rokupon. Okay, that could have tripped us up. Or rokubon. So the small tsu and the voicing or the voicelessness. So the double consonant, the small tsu, they're trying to get us with that. And the voicing. So when it comes to counters, I think a lot of people, and I know I did, put a lot of energy that just when you get in the Genki textbook or whatever to counting that specific thing, pencils or day of the week, then at that point you memorize the counters. I don't think a lot of people sort of talk about the fundamentals of how this works. So these are the types of charts I make here in my classes at TFLI when we get into counting, that it's not really as complicated as you might think it is. If you just follow this chart, it may make sense to some of you, it may not make sense to all of you guys right now, but take a screen capture of this if I put the video up or whatever, and keep this with you. This is how numbers and counting work. So if we have the counter kanji we had was hone for pencils and cylinder-shaped objects. If I had one of these objects, how would I count it? Ippon. I would follow this rule. I wouldn't say ichihon. The chi would become a small tsu, and it gets the circle if it can. Ippon. Yeah.
If you had two of those, would you possibly get that mixed up with the word of Japan?
Oh, yes. You wouldn't get it mixed up. Japanese people have a joke about it. Japanese joke, as my JTB used to say. Yeah. Nihon, if we have two objects. Nihon. Two pencils or Japan, the country. Yeah. And then if you see here in my chart, now instead of the circle, I have the two dots. If we have three objects, what is it? Sanbon. Okay? What about yon for four? Nothing's up here. Yon hon. That can be confusing because you think it's the sound. Yeah, but no. That happens on the three. Sanbon, yon hon, go hon. How about for six? Ropon, that was in our question. Nanahon. How about 8? Following this chart. Hapon. Hapon. Just like with 1, with ichi. Chi becomes a small tsu. We put a circle on it. Hapon. How about if I had 10 of them? Kyuhon. Jupon. The u becomes a small tsu, and we get a circle. This applies to everything. If we are counting in hundreds, I would say hyaku, nihyaku, sanbyaku, yonhyaku, gohyaku, ropyaku, nanahyaku, hapyaku, kyuhyaku. If I'm counting sen, nisen, in thousands, sen, nisen, sanzen. The 3 is going to get the 2 dots right there. So this is kind of fundamentally, any sort of counters that have that irregular changing, this is the change they're going to go through.
John, can you explain what the kanji in the middle mean?
Okay. There are exceptions.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So, for example, this kanji is ko.
There's always exceptions.
There's always exceptions. This is ko, okay, for generic objects. And if I were counting them, I would still follow the same rules. Ikko. Ko can't get the circle. Only hahihupeho can. But it still has the small tsu. Ikko. Nikko. Sanko. Not sango.
Okay.
Sanko.
Moral, right?
Yeah, that's an exception. Same thing with the thousands. We got the sanzen, yon-sen, go-sen, roku-sen. Roku-sen. Nana-sen, ha-sen. Ha-sen, Q-sen. So those are just a few exceptions to this general counter rule. So exceptions always exist, like we've said, but if you're confused and you need something to think about, drill that image in your head right there for counters and how they work. Okay? Not as hard as you thought.
I
Yeah.
always wondered why it was like that, like if they had any significance to 1, 3, 6, and 8.
In terms of numbers, I'm not sure. What I tell my students when we get to counting thousands, hachisen, 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 it's kind of weak. But like ha-sen gives it that like clarity and that punch. So I think it's really a pronunciation thing within the phonetics of Japanese. The whole thing like sanbyaku, where you get that voicing on the second half of the word, that's called rendaku, which means sequential voicing. And there's this whole article. Anybody know tofugu? Anybody keep up with tofugu stuff? Pretty awesome, right?
Wanikani is what I use.
Yeah, Wanikani. They have the Wanikani app, which is really great. And so they have this whole article, which again, if you go back to the video, I'll have a link to this. Great article. I mean, this is something that I dork out about. Why is it hito bito and not hito hito? That type of thing. So you can read this article on your own time and get more familiar with the rules of rendaku, that sequential voicing. So again, we have all these things we talked about on the surface: long vowel, short vowel, double consonant, small tsu, voicing. all these thousands of tips and tricks. Really, fundamentally, what you have to do is memorize your kanji readings and know those really, really solid. Really, really solid. As you're making flashcards in your app or whatever, make sure you're memorizing readings. So what do we know about kanji readings? What have you guys learned about them? You got different types of readings, right? What's this one I got up here? Onyomi. Yeah. What can you guys tell me about it that you've learned? It's up there. Okay. I had this slide animated, and I took all the animations away, and now I think I've
I
spoiled
was like,
it.
I would say something, but I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
sound very good.
Onyomi. In Japan, in ancient Japan, they had their own spoken language. They did not have a written language. They took literacy from Chinese characters and then adapted it to Chinese or to Japanese. So when they did that, they tried to keep the phonetic reading of some of those characters, and that's where the onyomi comes from. Now, by default, if you learn Japanese, do you also learn Chinese?
No.
Unfortunately not. No. But that's where this comes from. So the onyomi, the important thing is the sound, okay? Not so much the meaning, the sound. That's what's important behind it, okay? And if you look it up in a dictionary, it'll be written in katakana, because it's phonetic, it's for the sound, or all caps in a Romaji dictionary. Now, here's some tricks for when you get onto the JLPT and you're kind of confused. If you put kanji together in a compound word, they often take the onyomi. Yeah.
Not all.
Not all of them.
But
Example. What do I have here on the board?
E.
He for fire. Who got that one?
Me.
Sweet. Now, ignore this for a second. Now what do I have on the board?
Yama.
Yama for mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I put them together to make a compound word, how do I pronounce it?
Kazan.
Kazan. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, the compound word. I put them together, Kazan took on the onyomi. Okay? Most of the time, that's what's going to happen when you make a compound word. Okay? Some kanji only have an onyomi. That's all they have. Like we talked about senshu, shu for week. That's the only reading of that kanji, and it's the onyomi. Okay? What's the opposite of onyomi? Kunyomi. What do you guys know about kunyomi before I put the slide up?
Japanese people developed.
Japanese people developed. Yeah. They had a word for fire already. He. They could go around and talk about he for fire in their tribes and everything. When the kanji came, they then attached a letter to it. But now they've attached their own word, he, to that kanji. That's where the kunyomi comes from. What's important with kunyomi is the meaning. What does it mean? That's what's more important. When we look it up in dictionaries, it'll be written in hiragana or in lowercase romaji. And like we did with this example, if the kanji's by itself, what's this one?
E.
He. It's by itself, so it's taking the kunyomi. How about this one? It's by itself. What's it read?
Yama.
Yama, standing by itself, signifying mountain. That's why it's the kunyomi. Put them together in a compound word, kazan, the onyomi. The sound's more important. Now that's not always the case. Again, here are some exceptions. Kin, for gold, by itself, that's the onyomi of that kanji. Hon, by itself, to mean book, that's the onyomi of that kanji. So again, this rule, if the kanji's by itself, it's the kunyomi. True, probably about 80% of the time. There are going to be those exceptions, though. Also, if you're taking the test, and if you see a word that has okurigana, like this, you've got that kanji with an E beside it, you can almost be guaranteed that kanji needs the kunyomi when you look at your choices. So what's the kunyomi of that? Oi means many. How about if you see these, like in a verb? You see it mixed up. If you see those okurigana, you know it's going to be the kunyomi of those kanji. Anybody can read that?
Is that Tabi Komu?
Tobi komu,
Tobi.
to dive
That's
into.
a fly.
Tobi komu, to dive into something. There are going to be exceptions. This is more of a level 2, level 1 word. Shojiru, for something to happen, to come out. Shojiru.
How many
That's-
ratings does that kanji have?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you in a few
50
slides.
or
how-
60.
Not quite that many. So understanding these basics of the readings are going to help you eliminate some of those wrong choices on the test. Now we talked about compound words, putting two or more kanji together to form a single word. They often take their own yomi, like we talked about with kazan, but not always. One of my stories behind this, can anybody read that word?
Hunking?
Hinking.
Hinking. Oh,
Hinking.
yeah.
Hinking.
I said,
Hinking. I'm going to write this on the board and tell you a story of when I was in Japan. And I don't have the best handwriting, but I had really awesome flashcards that I made. And I knew this kanji was kaesu, which means to give back. Okay, I could pull up the memory of this flashcard in my head. Hin, onyomi, kaesu, kunyomi. And I knew gold was kin or kane for money, okay? And I was snowboarding, and they would serve you dinner in my hotel at 6 o'clock every night. They would call your room and say, come down to dinner, and I had to sit by myself, and everybody would stare at me. And I was really uncomfortable. So I told them, I want to cancel tonight's dinner reservation. I don't want to sit for dinner. And the guy at the hotel was like, okay, but hen kin dekimasen. I can't do hen kin, okay? I had never studied the word hen kin. I had never heard that word in my life. But because my flashcards were drilled so much into my head, I put it together. Give back money. I can't give back money. Oh, I can't get a refund for my dinner. Okay, that's fine. So this is how memorizing readings can even help you get through in Japan like that. Not only on the test, but in Japanese in general. Now, if you've got the compound words like we've been talking about, like if you're confused, you see two kanji together, I'll let you know, usually, if one kanji uses the onyomi, the other one does too. This would not be hisan or kayama. Normally. If I can know one of these onyomi in the compound word, I know the other kanji has to be the onyomi as well. Usually. 80% of the time. The opposite is also true. Usually, if one kanji in a compound word uses the kunyomi, the other kanji will as well. We'll go through some examples of these. There are also exceptions, as always. An onyomi kunyomi reading is called a jubako yomi. A kunyomi onyomi reading is called a yuto yomi. Pretty boring stuff, right? Pretty dry stuff. I dork out over this stuff. I get excited about it. Are you interested?
I'm interested.
You're interested? Anybody else interested?
I am.
You are? I love that enthusiasm.
Like why the kanji is that?
Why the kanji are like that. Let's look at some examples. Who can tell me the readings of this kanji?
Shoot. It's to compare, right?
Sin?
Yeah.
Sin is one. What's the other one? If this were a verb.
Edabu.
Edabu. What's it mean?
I select.
To select, to choose, to elect, to select. So our onyomi is sin. Our kunyomi is edabu, for to choose. Okay? How about this one? Shoes, one of our onyomis. Okay. What's our kunyomi? Te. Okay, for hand, right? We all know te for hand. Okay, zu, good job. Like jozu. Okay, what's another one? What's the opposite of jozu? Heta. Yeah, so you've got two onyomis, shu and zu. You've got two kunyomis, te and ta. What happens when we put these together? Senshu. What does senshu mean? An athlete, a player. Yeah. This is following that normal rule, onyomi. This is sort of the base. This is what's going to happen 80% of the time. Let's go back to this one. What were our readings again? Teishu Tazu. Okay, we've gone through this one. How about this one? Kami and Shi. You guys are hot on this. Yeah. Onyomi of Shi, kunyomi of Kami means paper. Okay. What happens when I put them together? Tegami. What does tegami mean? A letter. Okay. What are the two readings we've got there matched up? Those are the kunyomis. Those are the kunyomis of those kanji. This is following the rule. If one is the kunyomi, so will the other. It's getting that rendaku also. Not teikami, but teigami. Okay? If you're confused, if you know, hey, I can read this, that's te. I don't know if that's kami or that's shi, but I know that's te, then you can start to eliminate more of the wrong choices and get to the right answer. Teigami. Okay? How about these words? Who can read these for me? I know we got some advanced people. How about you guys? Have you studied these yet?
Well, no, he don't.
You know
Do
hito.
what he told you. You know what they both mean.
Yeah.
So what do you think it might be when you put them together? Like you should know both of those.
You advanced guys, help them out. What's the top one? What's the bottom one? What do both these words mean?
Friend and best friend.
Friend. Friend. They both mean friend. Eugene's a little more stiff and formal, but they're essentially the same meaning of friend. What's going on here? They've got the first same kanji, right? Kunyomi stays with kunyomi. Tomodachi. Onyomi stays with onyomi. Eugene. Not tomobito or tomohito. Eugene. Okay? It's staying consistent within the readings. Make sense, guys? Okay. Anybody seen this? Who can read those for me from top to bottom?
First two.
What are the first two?
Onegai, onamae.
Okay, onegai, onamae. How about more advanced guys? What's this one? Gokakunin. Gokyodoku. Hi. Confirmation, cooperation. Have you ever seen this and struggled? Why do some of them get O to be more polite? Like onamae or onegai? And why do some of them get go? Has anybody lost sleep over this? No? No? Well,
Go is like from, one of them is like the Chinese, usually the words that the kanji that taken directly from China, like put together, they usually have go, I think.
well,
Go has,
we're just following the same rule. There's a kanji for that. That's not used in modern Japan.
oh, I've seen that.
And it's the same kanji. And it's simply following the same rule. Onegai, those are all kunyomis. Onamae, not meizen. If it were meizen, it would be go meizen. It's onamae, all kunyomi. These are all onyomis, kakunin. So it's the onyomi, go kakunin, go kyoryoku. Okay? That's the reason why, if you're struggling with how to make those words more polite, that's all they're doing. So how about this, if I throw that kanji out there? How would I read this one? Omizu. Omizu. If you want to go to the restaurant and be really polite when you order water, omizu. Omizu kudasai. How about now with hon? And remember what I said about hon.
Go home.
Go home. Go home. Sensei no go hon o yomasete te akemashita. Sensei, I read your book. Go home. To be more polite to my sensei. So, let's do it again. Let's make Tomodachi and Eugene polite. How would we pronounce them? O Tomodachi, go Eugene. Go Eugene. Okay? Simply keeping it consistent. Kunyomis and onyomis. Staying consistent. There are always exceptions, though. That'll be the point of today. And the thing about exceptions is you just have to memorize them. So can anybody read those for me? Osampo. Take the dog for a walk. Osampo. Those are the onyomis of those kanji, but it's got an O in front of it. How about the next one? Ojikan. Oshokuji. Odenwa. We heard this in the schools a lot, right?
Yeah.
John Sensei, Odenwa desu. And it's your supervisor at City Hall. Yeah. And last one? Obento. Those are all onyomis, but they get O. The theory is because they're used so frequently, they're just kind of more Japanese words than they were Chinese readings. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about weird kanji readings. Anybody get excited about weird kanji and weird kanji readings? Sensei does in the back. I know I do. I do too. Okay, what can you tell me about this kanji? How's it read? Dai. There is a kunyomi for it apparently. Utena. Never heard it. My Japanese friends don't know it, so don't worry about that. But it's usually dai to mean the pedestal or the counter for machines. Okay.
That kind of thing would be on the N1, knowing that. obscure reading.
I don't even think that's on N1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
If Japanese people can't recognize it, I don't even think it's on N1. How about this? Tokoro? What reading is Tokoro? Kunyomi. How about Sho? What reading is that? Onyomi, yeah. Sho, Onyomi, Tokoro, or Toko, Kunyomi. Okay? What about when I put them together? Dai Dokoro. I got you, huh? Dai Dokoro for kitchen. Dai Dokoro.
Kind of interesting.
That's the Onyomi, and that's the Kunyomi.
It's the place with machines.
The place with machines in the kitchen. Yeah. Dai Dokoro. Onyomi, Kunyomi combination. That's called a Jubako Yomi. That's a pretty weird, hard word to remember, right? A Jubako is that. Just these boxes you could stack up. Literally stack up boxes. Jubako Yomi. Why do they call it the Jubako reading? Because a Jubako, that thing, does Onyomi, Kunyomi. They could call it the Kittens and Rainbows reading or whatever, but they chose a common classic vocabulary word, a Jubako, that uses this phenomenon, and a Jubako Yomi. Okay, so that's what those are. You really just have to memorize them. Let's go the other way. What's this kanji? Ba.
That's ba, yeah.
What reading is ba?
Onyomi? I mean, it's not onyomi. I'm assuming it's kunyomi.
Kunyomi. So what's the onyomi? Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
How do you say parking lot?
Senjo.
Yes, senjo, chushajo. Okay, so jo is our onyomi, ba is our kunyomi. What's this one again? Onyomi, sho, kunyomi, tokoro. Yep. Put them together. Basho. Kunyomi, onyomi combination.
Shobaku kumi? Shobaku kumi? What was the combination again?
This one I haven't told you yet. Jubako yomi was the previous one. This is a kunyomi, onyomi combination. Okay? Which we call yuto yomi. Again, just because that's a yuto. The little pail for hot water at the onsen or whatever. Yuto yomi. That's where it gets its name from. Kunyomi, onyomi combination. These are just words you're going to have to memorize. Those tricks I taught you, they're not going to work on words like this. It's just about memorization. The dangers come in getting comfortable with the readings, like with Jugyo, how we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Who can read that for me? You guys, have you studied these kanji? Haven't gotten this far yet? Michi-o Aruku. What are the readings? Is that onyomi or kunyomi? It's kunyomi. Why is it kunyomi? They're separate. They're by themselves. It's part of a sentence. We see the ku right there. Okay. Let's put them together. What is it now?
It's hodo.
Okay. Spell that for me.
Sidewalk. Ho and then do and then shu. Do.
Ho-u.
Ho.
Hodo. Okay, sidewalk. Short vowel, long vowel. So what I see happens is people get really comfortable with michi and aruku. Those are very daily words that we use, and we tend to just get used, in that case, get used to the kunyomis, because we use those all the time. Now we put those together, and we forgot the onyomis. We forgot how to read this word, hodo, for sidewalk, and we're going to get it wrong. Okay? Let's go the other way. Who can read that? You got that?
Is that? Is the first one like? No, I can't. Just to answer your question.
Okay. Chrissy? Okay, you guys? Kakunin. Kakunin. What does kakunin mean? Confirm. Like your confirmation. Check it. Okay? This, again, is the word we get comfortable. We use kakunin for confirmation every day in Japan. How about if I separate those out? Tashka. You guys got the first one. Yeah, Tashka. What about the second one? They're good. Stop asking them. But that's the same danger in the opposite way. We get used to saying kakunin. Kakunin shite kudasai. We say kakunin every day, confirmation. If we had to break this apart, tashika for certain, or mitomeru, we're going to start to forget it. Okay. Tashikani. Wasurete shimaemasu. Hai.
Kind of off base, but
Yeah.
how do you? I get mitomeru, watomeru, and motomeru confused a lot.
Oh, really?
How do you like differentiate like the three of them? Because I confuse them all the time.
Like when you're speaking,
Yes.
you just sort of slip up.
Yes, like instead of mitomeru, I said like watomeru instead of like I mistake them a lot.
You do.
It's a really bad habit I can't break for some reason.
Do you know the kanji for them?
I know the kanji for mitomeru, and then watomeru. I could read them, but I can't write them.
Okay.
Like most kanji, I can read a lot more than I can write.
Okay. I guess that would be my advice for you is really focus on the kanji. Because again, like I guess the way my shattered brain works is I'm thinking of the kanji and like the symbolism behind the meaning, and then I can separate it out in my head. But I mean, thank you for sharing. I've never encountered that, but I can easily see how that's a problem. What he's talking about is confusing the words mitomeru for to recognize, matomeru to sum up, and motomeru to demand or request. Yeah, those are very similar. Okay, that's something they could get you with too. They could have that kanji and give you those three choices.
That's a wrong answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the advice is just to memorize your readings, backwards and forwards. Let's speaking of readings, let's look at some things. Who can read that for me? You guys got this one? Ue. What's it mean?
Up.
Up. Great job, guys.
We did that last week.
We did that last week, okay? How about this one? Have you guys got to this word yet?
No, but then you should know both of those kanjis and do what he said. What do you think they might mean?
A handout?
Yeah, this is a hard one.
This is
That really makes sense.
I would say thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
How do you read this word?
Jozu.
Jozu. To be good at something. To have the upper hand.
Yeah.
Okay? Jozu.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
high five.
The upper hand. Yeah. Have the upper hand. Be good at something. Jozu. Let's keep going. Who can read this for me? Agaru. Okay. Go ask you guys to chill out for a bit. Agaru. Agaru. Or I'll ask, what does this one mean? Agaru.
It's
Rise.
to raise or to
Rise.
be
To
raised.
raise or rise.
Which one? Raise or
I
rise?
think it's I think it's just to be. It's like to be risen. It's like
Be like something rises.
Okay.
From the grave.
It's rise. It's something rises up. I'm going to talk about this later. That's why I wanted to use this example. Okay. Might even throw this on you guys. Oh, I heard it.
No body.
No bodu.
Yeah, it is.
No bodu.
Yeah.
No bodu.
There's another one too.
No bodu. What's the difference here?
Well, means climber.
Agaru, we can see gadu. Here we just see ru after the kanji. Okay? No bodu. That's the way they could get you with those different choices. Okay? Last one. Oh, you know, there's something up with this one, right?
Yeah.
Wait.
How would you guys guess? What would be some guesses?
Jokai.
No.
Jokai sudu. Okay.
Yeah, Jokai.
There's no su. There's no su. All right. So if there's no su and it can't be jokai sudu, if it can't be the onyomis, we need to go kunyomis. So what would it be?
Mawadu?
Huh?
Oh, is it Jokai Mawadu? Is it
Jokai mawadu, but the kai and mawadu, they're already there.
not Kai? Is it Mawadu?
Ue mawadu?
No.
Ue mawadu?
Uwa mawaru.
U.
What? Uwa mawaru. I always get this confused.
Oh.
Uwa mawadu. Uwa mawadu.
What is that reading?
This you'll hear this a lot in like the N2, probably more N1, especially the listening test. They'll have a chart of like company sales. They'll have like a sales target, and then they'll have their months down here, and they'll have their sales amounts, and it'll be like Rokugatsu ni target o uwamawata. It went over the sales target.
Overshot.
Yeah, exceeded. Yeah, uwa
That's a
mawata.
tongue twister for me.
That is a tongue twister. That's hard to say. You think of this as ue, but you have uwagi for an overcoat. Uwagi. That's not uwamawadu. Uwagaku to overwrite a computer file. So the tip here is never write off a kanji the whole time you're studying. What we did is we took the ue kanji and we started about N5, okay, about your guys' level. And then we just went up. I had about 5 examples, right? Just going up. N4, N3, N2, N1 for uwa mawadu. That ue kanji is going to follow and haunt you for your entire JLPT career. So after you've taken and passed N5, don't forget about ue. Don't think you're done with it, because it will stay with you. So will this one. We could play the same game, right? Yeah, we could play the same game. And we've already talked about this. There are around 35 readings for this one kanji. 33, 35, somewhere around there for one kanji. It's not going away the whole time you take the JLPT. Don't ever forget about it. Don't ever write it off. Okay, we've got another sample question. Sample question number 3 on your handout. Sample question number 3 on the handout, the first page. You guys give sample question number 3 a shot. This time you've got the hiragana, you've got the sentence, Shukudai ga hanbun owarimashita. And now you've got to pick, of the 4, what is the correct kanji writing for that word?
Sheep, right?
Yeah. The first one? Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Did you guys get it? Did you take a guess?
I have my answer, but I'm not sure if it's right.
Okay.
I took a guess.
You took a guess?
Torn between 2.
Torn between 2. Okay. That's what we want to do, right? You've at least eliminated half the wrong answers. You're halfway there. Okay. What is the answer people put down? What'd you guys get? If you get it wrong, own it. That's fine. You'll make me happy.
3.
4? 3? 4? 4? 3? It's 4. It's 4. That's how you write hanbun. Now, when I made this handout and made this PowerPoint, I had to type these words out. However, in the real N5 test, this is not what it looked like. Well, let's ask ourselves first. What's being tested here? What are they trying to get you with?
The first kanji, like the difference, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe.
The radicals. Similar radicals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar radicals. Right there. Those little pieces of it. They're trying to trip us up on that. Here's the actual scan of the text. Look at this and try to tell me what's different from your handout.
2 and 3 are in different spots.
Oh, you got little thingies over there,
Oh.
little ka things, the things that I don't know what to call it.
Those are
Yeah.
fake, right?
These are fake kanji. What? I have tried to look this up
Oh my
in
God.
Chinese dictionaries. And we were talking about this yesterday at the JET thing. They create fake kanji to put in the choices and trick you up.
That seems a little underhanded, doesn't it?
That is what the JLPT does.
That's for every standardized
That is for
test,
every
bud.
standardized test. They are not out to be fair. They are out to eliminate as many of you as possible. And that's why I'm trying to help you. Because there is no low they won't go. Okay, that's my point. They will go as low as to create fake kanji to put in the multiple choice answers to trip you up. And this is the N5 test. This is scanned directly from that book right there. So they start at the beginning. They don't go easy on you.
Are all of the ones in here in 5?
Most of these. I think I've got
There's
one
one
N2.
grammar one that looks a little trickier.
Yeah, the grammar
Okay.
one is like an N2 or something.
Oh,
But
okay, that makes sense. I was worried for
So far, what we've done is all N5 directly from that book. So the way to get around this is actually to memorize stroke order. Now you may think I'm crazy because it's a multiple choice test, but the way to address this issue and where they can't catch you is to do what we were talking about. Get graph paper, get manuscript paper, and practice writing by hand. I know we're not writing by hand in our daily lives that much anymore. There was an article I posted on my social media that came out. They have done this research in Japan. And Japanese language, like other East Asian languages, you have to write by hand for your brain to memorize it. They have done the science behind that, and the Japanese school system is struggling right now with their own students, with their own children, because kids and people just aren't writing by hands, and they're having to find ways to get Japanese middle school and high school students to actually write by hand because it is necessary to drill it into your brain. So with all the apps and everything, they are great. I love them, but you have to spend some time writing them out by hand.
New studies say that you have to experience it 21 times for it to become memorized.
21 times.
21
And I love the choice of the word experience. Not just flashcard, not just saw it in a book, experienced it in some way. So a quick review of what we've talked about. All of this was emoji. All of this was one section for characters. Memorize your kanji readings, backwards and forwards. Distinguish between onyomi and kunyomi. Never write off a kanji, even if you think it's easy like ue. And memorize your stroke order. Actually spend the time writing things out by hand. Those are all on the handout if you want to fill those blanks in, if you were following along. So just as a visual review of that, like let's say we have this kanji here, that means we've got to memorize the stroke order. We've got to actually practice writing it. We need to know all the readings, onyomis and kunyomis. We need to know its meaning and usage, because like we talked about before, sometimes the reading could change depending on the context, depending on the usage. So when you're making your flashcards, there's also been research that shows there is still a lot of value in making paper flashcards by hand. For like you said, because it's an experience. You have the experience now of creating a flashcard for this character. So these three things are what they're going to try to get you on. Are there any questions about emoji, about characters, before we move on to the next section for GOE, vocabulary? Let's start with sample question number 4 at the top of the second page. This one may be more in 4 in 3, but what I did is I put all the vocabulary down there and the readings to help you read that sentence and understand the context of it. And then you're to choose which of the 4 vocabulary words goes in that blank. Are you guys done?
I got it. Okay.
You feel pretty confident about it?
I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, I'm going to have you just chill out
Okay.
for a second. How do you feel, Dion?
It's between 2.
Okay, between 2. Okay, you've eliminated down to 2. 2 for you. For you.
Oh,
You
I
probably.
think I got it.
You think you got it? Those of us who have taught in Japan might have this one.
I think I have. Yeah.
Okay.
It's, yeah, it seems pretty clear.
Seems pretty clear? Okay. How about you guys? Are you ready? I know there's a lot of kanji and stuff there. Did you guys make an answer, whether it's right or not? Okay. Let's go through them. Let's just take a poll. How many chose number 1? Raise your hand. Okay. 2. How many chose number 2? 2. Okay. How many chose number 3? 0. How many chose number 4? I don't think you answered. You're still struggling?
Yeah, like 4.
4? Okay, we'll go with 4 people. What are our words here? What's the first word? What's number 1? Okay. What type of situation would we use that in? City Hall. We go to a concert.
Like you can go to it, then you wouldn't carry it out.
Okay.
Or like
that's-
a pop singer, like a
Yeah.
famous person.
Big ex-Japan
Yeah.
consato. Okay.
Maybe.
How about number 2? When will we use that word?
When you're going to it,
At a
like a
school.
live show.
I think like concert, like a big one too, where you also use like a bigger
Okay.
pop singer or something.
So I could go to the Bridgestone Arena to like a big consato,
Yeah.
or I could go to like the Exit Inn to see my friends,
Naibu.
my local band or something like that live. How about number 3? When will we use that?
Isn't that award?
Okay. Well, yeah. If it were in kanji, it would mean award.
Okay.
But you could have something like a dina show.
Oh.
Okay, dina show. Okay. How about number 4?
Like a competition.
You guys are giving it away. The correct answer is number 4. The correct answer is number 4. This is one that got me. Concours comes from the French. Means a competition. Essentially, we had a junior high school band competition was the situation in the story. Most people are going to go straight for concert because they see Suiso Gakubu, the school band, is going to have a concert. That makes a lot of sense. What we're really having is a competition of school bands, concours. And this comes from the French word. All the rest of them obviously came from English. This is another thing. There's no bottom that they'll go. Okay? If you are an English native speaker, they know your strength is katakana. Okay? How about this? You guys who have been to Japan and more advanced people, chill out for just a second. How about our students? Who can read this for me? Yeah?
Shoe cream?
Okay.
Like shoe polish?
Okay, like shoe polish, clean your shoes with? Makes sense?
No, I don't think that's correct.
You don't think that's correct? What is it?
It's a cream puff.
It's a cream puff.
Oh, shoe polish.
It's a cream puff. Again, it's a French word. Looks a lot like an English word for some shoe cream that you clean your shoes with, but no, it's a cream puff from the French. So the point, oh, I got one more for you. Akogi. This one is from English. Anybody got it?
Corgi?
Corgi?
Accordion.
Accordion?
Accordion.
It's short for acoustic guitar. Akogi, keru. Tadashi kogi, akogi kata. Acoustic guitar.
I know there are some that are taken from German as well that I
Yeah.
get sometimes.
Yeah. So the point is, never write off katakana vocabulary, even if you speak English. If you're making flashcards on paper, or an Anki, or Memorize, or one of those programs, you need to have a deck of katakana vocabulary cards specifically. Only one deck that is all katakana. You can't pass through katakana just because you speak English. Originally, most of them came from the Portuguese, then the Dutch, then the other languages like French and English and German. A lot of dental terms, medical terms, are from German. So you definitely need to be keeping katakana flashcards on you.
Do you know what percentage of katakana words are English?
I don't know an exact percentage. In modern times, it's going to be the majority. And that's where we're getting comfortable with it. But all those words we talk about that came from French or German or whatever, there's a lot of older words that are still in daily use, and we can't forget those. Some words like hose, for hose, you may think that's English. That's from the Dutch.
Okay.
Skope. Anybody know skope?
Oh, is it scoop?
Scoop?
Yeah.
Shovel, really.
Yeah.
That's from the Dutch. And you may think that and see scoop, but that's from the Dutch word for shovel.
Biedu is from Dutch too, isn't it?
Biedu?
Yeah.
Maybe. I could imagine, given the salada is from Portuguese. If it came from English, it would have been salado.
Right, and beer probably would have been bia.
Yeah,
Right.
Bia would have been bia if it were from English, probably. Yeah.
Tempura.
Tempura
From Portuguese.
from Portuguese. Caruta is from Portuguese for cards. Yeah. The old Catholic missionaries back in the day. That's where they got a lot of those words from. So don't write off katakana. Next, study vocabulary by part of speech. As you make your flashcards, don't just have N5 vocabulary. That's my whole deck of flashcards. Just N5 vocabulary. That's too much. That's too confusing. Separate your flashcards into the separate parts of speech categories. Meishi, nouns. Doshi, verbs. Keiyoshi, adjectives. Keiyodoshi, not adjectives. Fukushi, adverbs. Giongo, onomatopoeia, gitaigo, mimetic words. You may have noticed in the sample questions so far, but they're going to give you 4 choices to choose from. 99% of the time, those 4 choices are all going to be the same parts of speech. If one's a noun, they're all going to be nouns. If one's a verb, it's all verbs. If they've got an adverb, it's going to be all adverbs they make you choose from. So you might get to a point where you hit the adverb question, and if you're not solid on your adverbs, you don't have an adverb deck, they'll probably get you with that adverb question, and you'll lose some points on that.
Can you explain the difference between the last two, John?
The last 2? Not a whole lot. And when we do the sample question, we're grouping them together.
Okay.
If you look at the kanji and think about it, what it means, these kanji, gi on go, imitate a sound word. Gi tai go, imitate a situation word. So the gi on go are definitely your sound effects. And your gi tai go are more like, kind of like adverbs, kind of statuses or situations, okay? And we'll look at some of these in the sample questions. So, For nouns, I think Alex was saying this, you can further subdivide nouns. Food, school, sports, animals, finance, medical terminology. You can make separate decks just for these different categories. Verbs. You guys have been studying verbs, right? You've been studying how to conjugate verbs? Yeah? You've been studying group 1, group 2, verbs, verbs. Pretty much all of these different verb conjugations I have listed up here are game for the N5 test. And this is probably going through Genki 1 and into Genki 2. And that's N5. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about verb conjugations today, just sort of warning you, you need to have all of these down really solid, even before N5. Yeah. Sure.
So I'm taking N2 this year. Should I be studying for N2, 4, N2, 3, 4, and 5, all of it, or just the N2?
It's all game.
It's all game.
Yeah, it's all game. Yeah.
A lot of books are away.
It's a lot of books. Te form and ta form also. You may notice, I'm not going to go into the example, both of these, their root form is kaeru. One means to go home, one means to change, but depending on that kanji and the context of the situation, this could be a contextual thing. They could write kaeru in hiragana, and you need to read the rest of the sentence. I'm about to kaeru, okay? I'm about to go home. Or could you kaeru the temperature or something? Could you change what you're doing? This is a time where they could get you, and they are conjugated differently, group 1 and group 2. And also group 3, irregular verbs. Have you guys gotten into these yet?
Yep.
Okay. Again, all of this I have on the board is game for N5 pretty much. And then when it gets a lot of people is kudu, because we know kudu is the dictionary form, but we probably learned first kimasu, right? Kite kudasai, kita. And then kudu is the dictionary form. Any other form people really struggle with. They tend to get confused. Besides kimasu and kite, kitai, kita, and kudu, the rest of the time that kanji is read as ko. Konai, koi, koyo, koreru, korareru, kosaseru. Okay? Don't overthink that. It's ko. If you're confused about it, it's probably ko in some sort of reading. And like I said, we have shite, shita, kite, kita. But ones they really get you with are transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. You guys seem freaking out. What's going on?
I still don't.
You still don't get it?
I still don't get it.
You
no.
still don't get it. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
You guys struggled with this?
If I think about it, it's hard, but if I just naturally speak, it's not that bad.
If you get used to it, if you sort of kind of are adjusted to what context you use, what verb, then yeah. So could you read those on the board on the left side? Oh, okay, maybe. Then what would be on the right side?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is bad.
That is bad. Yeah. That is hard. On the left side, nani nani yo, akeru. Nani nani yo, hiraku. File o hiraku. Mado o akeru. The right side, mado ga, nani nani ga, aku. Nani nani ga, hirakeru. Hirakeru. This is transitive, intransitive. This is jidoshi and tadoshi, or tadoshi and jidoshi. And this is something they will try to trick you on, and it is very difficult. And the thing is, I don't really agree with the way it's taught. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I know it's over your all's heads right now, would you mind if I just show you how I figured this out?
I would love that.
How I learned to sleep at night
Yeah.
because of these verbs. Let's start with tadoshi, which is transitive. And let's look in both languages. Tadoshi, this kanji means other, right? As in, for this verb, some other entity, not the self, some other entity performs the action of the verb, okay? In English, we call this transitive verbs, as in somebody is making a transaction with something, okay? In Japanese, transitive verbs are going to have wo to mark the direct object. Mizu o nomu. That's a transitive verb. I am transacting with Mizu. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Can you guys read this one for me? Mo akete kudasai. Akete kudasai. That's a transitive verb. I'm interacting with the window. It's got the wo, so I need to learn when I'm making my kanji flashcards that akeru is the transitive verb, the tadoshi. Okay? Jon-san ga mado o akete kurita. We could have a ga to mark our subject. John opened the window. Jon-san ga mado o akete kurita. Okay? Here's a trick. If the root verb ends in su, it's transitive. Automatically. These came from sudu, and sudu is always transitive. Hanasu, okosu, kudasu, shimesu. These verbs that end in su, they're automatically transitive. Okay? All the time. All the other cases, there's no other tricks. Like aku, hiraku, akeru, hirakeru. Can't help you with those. You just have to memorize it. This, you've got a trick. Jidoshi, intransitive. That kanji, ji. You guys recognize this one? Have you studied this one yet? Ji? Means the self, right? Okay? So the self is doing the action. It's automatic. Okay? The self is what does it. In English, we call this intransitive. There is no transaction taking place. And what comes before the verb is the particle ga, or wa. That's how we're going to tell that apart. So, read this one for me. Mado ga aiteru. Mado, the self, the window itself is open. And so it's the intransitive version of that kanji. Mado ga aiteru. Okay? Nande mado ga aiteru no? Saki Jon-san ga akete kureta. We could have in a dialogue both the intransitive. Why is the window open? Because Jon-san just opened it. So here we have ageru again. Ageru is the transitive. Nedan o agemashita. I raised prices. What would be the intransitive of this verb that we saw earlier? Agaru. Agaru. Ginyu no nedan ga agarimashita. Oil prices rose. Ginyu no nedan ga agarimashita kara boku no gasoline stando de nedan o agemashita. Can have both transitive and intransitive in the same sentence. And you just have to memorize it. I know it's difficult, but Chrissy has just given you some things to think about to help you with it. Okay.
I mean, part of the problem is even the English word doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
So when I'm trying to remember what it means in English, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I choose this example. Raise and rise are about the only time we see the verb actually be different in English. The concept still exists. I open the window is opened.
Right.
That is transitive, intransitive. That's two different things, but we don't change open. It stays the same.
The was.
Yeah. Japanese, the verb itself changes, and that's what makes it difficult. E adjectives, keiyoshi. When you say, some of your teachers might have said e keiyoshi, na keiyoshi. That's not a thing. Keiyoshi is e keiyoshi, okay? And you're just going to have to make a deck of flashcards for your e adjectives, your e keiyoshi. But again, you can break these down even further, like e keiyoshi that end in nai and aren't negative. Sukunai, tsumaranai, mottainai, hakanai. Because this may be the choices the test gives you. Okay, they might be a similar subcategory like this, and you'll need to choose the correct one. You guys have gotten into adjectives, right?
We're doing that in a couple weeks.
In a couple weeks, okay, but not conjugations. Again, pretty much all these conjugations of e adjectives I have on the board are game for N5. So, how about this? Can somebody conjugate this for me? How to make this negative? Okay, he says chigakunai. Chigawanai. That's not an adjective.
Oh, yeah.
It's a noun. It comes from the verb chigao. Chigai. A difference. Chigao. To be different. To make it negative, chigawanai. I have to conjugate the verb. It's interesting because in grad school they made us watch Japanese TV personalities who would say chigakunai, who would treat it like an E adjective.
Yeah.
That's not correct. And the test will do this type of thing to you as well.
Were they trying to be funny, or was it just like a?
I think people
They just
really
actually-
think it's an E adjective in the back of their head. So you could have chigai, shikai. They look kind of similar, but one's a noun and one's an E adjective. They can get confusing. How about this? Can somebody make this one negative for me? You guys chill out for a second. No? Okay, you guys, what's the negative version? Kide janai. Not kide kunai, kide janai. Why is it kide janai? It's a na adjective, which in Japanese is actually called keio doshi. If you ever heard your sensei tell you na keoshi, that's not true. They're just trying to make life easier for you. The real word is keio doshi. Na adjectives, and again, you'll need to know all those conjugations, even for N5. So, what do we have up at the top? Kide. How about down at the bottom? What's that word? Kiyoi. What's kiyoi? Is that an E adjective? It is. You know how we can tell? Let's learn the kanji. Yeah. Learning kanji solves so many of our problems, especially with the confusion between na adjectives and E adjectives, because in that case I can see the E hanging out there. Kide, if I learn the kanji, there's no E hanging out. I know it's a na adjective. So learn the kanji. Kide na. Kiyoi. Kiyoi means pure, by the way. Kide means pretty. That's still confusing, though, even if you learn the kanji for chigai and chikai. Adverbs. Yukuri, yappari, sappari, hitsori, bichiri. Who else hates these words besides me? Yeah. These are so hard to memorize. So how are you going to memorize? How are you going to address the fact that adverbs are difficult? Make a deck for them. Make a deck that is only adverbs. Because, again, you're going to get to a question on the test, and those are going to be your choices, and you're going to have to distinguish which one's the correct one. Now let's look at Gyeongo and Gitaigo. And we've got some sample questions for this. Okay? Sample question number 5. I'm going to go through these all. I got 4 questions. We're going to go through all of these, and then we'll discuss the correct answers after we've done all 4. So starting with sample question 5. Everybody do sample question 5 on your handout. You guys let me know when you're done with sample question 5, when you took a guess at it. No phones, no cheating. Okay? You got it? Okay, you got it? Take a guess at it. Just circle one at random. Go ahead and start learning strategies now. Okay? Next, and we'll go on to sample question number 6. And again, if you don't know all the vocabulary, they're there for you. Sample question number 6. Let me know when you guys have finished. Sample question 6, when you've chosen an answer. Have you got your answer? Okay, you guys choose an answer? Sample question 6, everybody good on it? Okay. Sample question 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sample question 7. Let me know when you are done with sample question 7. You guys over here done with number 7? Okay. And to go on sample question number 8. The last of these. Sample question number 8. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys got number 8 done? Number 8 done? Number 8, take a guess? Okay. Start to look through them. Go back to sample question, was it number 5? Sample question number 5. Kaminari ga Who'd like to take a guess? Choro choro?
What is it? I think it's Godo.
Godo godo. Kaminari ga godo godo. Not Teru. The thunder is rolling godo godo. Ili.
Let's put in this down.
Godo godo. Okay.
That's all the name.
Sample question number 6. Oki na ishi ga yama no shamen o. I hear sodo sodo.
I don't think it's Godo. Number 7.
Godo godo. Godo godo korogate. Korogari ochite kita. Okay.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Sample question number 7. Yamamichi ni ishi ga godo godo shiteru no de aruki nikui. Question 8. Nichiyobi wa ie de godo godo shiteru. We know this one because we've done plenty of godo godo in our house on a Sunday. We're living in Japan. Okay. They are out to trick you. They are out to trick you like I did. I completely trolled you intentionally by having them all be the same choice. There is no low they won't sink to. Okay? Especially when it comes to these. So how can we address this? This was pretty hard, right? This was pretty confusing. How can we address this specific issue so that we don't get tripped up on the real test?
You just have to memorize them.
Memorize them? How are we going to memorize them?
Is there a dictionary of onomatopoeia?
There
Maybe
is.
some
There's-
websites.
There,
Yeah.
there
Okay.
is.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is like
I have a
these are the
great
things that aren't
book
talking
about
the
it.
classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like automatic-
Yeah.
They're not talking about the
By,
classes, so you just
Gomi
have to talk to
Haro.
Japanese people and have
Mhm.
great conversations with them. That's how I've been.
You know what Japanese people are going to do? Though my classmates, we studied this in grad school, how to teach students these type of words. And all my Japanese classmates said, just tell the students to sound it out. Just sound it out.
Does it work?
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work for us. They have the cultural context to be able to sound it out. They have the cultural context because they read a lot of manga and novels. You guys, for those higher levels, you need to be reading novels. Novels have to paint a picture with words about, you know, what you're doing on a Sunday or what it appears like of the rocks falling down the hill. And they'll use a lot of adverbs and mimetic words like this. And also have flashcards just for these type of words. A whole deck of flashcards of just this. And be memorizing them solid. So we've gone through all sorts of examples of godo godo. What is bodo bodo?
We like torn up.
Torn up. You got your ratty old sweater. Your sweater. Seita ga bodo bodo.
Well, you not use that for like non-living things.
For non-living
like
things?
Ishi, for example. So
Ishi
like,
ga
that's
bodo.
why I thought it was Bodo Bodo. It was like,
Uh-huh. You thought that the rock was all
if
torn
it was all
up?
torn up, it's hard to walk, right?
Okay.
I don't know. And then for
But there's rocks all over the road. Godo godo.
apparently,
Yeah.
and
They're
then
all
number
over the
6,
place.
I was like Soto. It's
What does soto soto mean?
like slow, like slow.
Eventually.
About to?
Okay.
Densha ga soto soto shupatsu shimasu. The train's about to leave.
Yeah.
Soto soto. Okay. Chodo chodo. It's the sound of boiling water. You got a pot of boiling water. Chodo chodo chodo. That's the sound of things. So it's really just about making flashcards and memorizing these solid. What type of situations they're used in. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it is a specific thing you're going to have to address in your JLPT study that goes beyond Genki textbook. Okay? They are out to trick you. So our review for our vocabulary, don't write off katakana, and study vocabulary by part of speech. As we've just seen, they will get you by the part of speech. Okay. Let's get into grammar. Let's get into grammar with our next sample question, number 9. Sample question number 9. I've got all the vocabulary for you.
Just sense that.
Which level would you say this is at, this question?
I do believe this is a level 2 into.
Yeah.
We can see the sentence itself, the context is pretty easy. And you can use those vocabulary down there to understand the context. It's again those grammar choices that are going to get you. But I've given you some translations to get started, to get thinking. You guys already picked your answer? Okay. So you all are already at that level. I'll kind of ask you all to chill out for a bit. Chris and Chrissy, you guys got an answer yet? Okay, take your time. Just throw up the hands or something. You got your answer?
I guess.
You guessed? Did you guess?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Circle one at random. Yeah, it's a good strategy to start learning. You got an answer? Okay. Everybody at least take a guess? Okay, let's take a poll. Who thinks number one? Number one. 0 on number one. Okay. How about number two? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 2 is looking pretty strong. How about number 3? 0. How about number 4? 0. Okay. Most people have honed in on number 2. You are right.
Wow.
It is number 2. And I'm pretty amazed. What was the thought process behind this? How'd you guys arrive at your answer?
I guess.
You guessed! And it worked!
Wow.
I read it out and it sounded the most correct out of the rest of them.
You read it in your head, and it sounded the most correct. Why did it sound correct?
The other ones just seem sort of jumbled around and not really
Okay.
fluid. I don't know.
Okay.
Number 3, that's past tense.
Okay, number 3 is
Yeah.
past tense.
So number 4.
Oh, number 4 is past tense.
Yeah.
And number 4 is past tense.
And number 1's like a triple negation. So,
Uh-huh. Okay. What are they testing here? What's our grammar point? We've got iru and inai, ita, inakata. Those are pretty easy grammar points. What's the main grammar point they're trying to do?
Wake?
Wake.
Yeah.
Wake was one that always gave me a lot of trouble on test. And it wasn't until I started reading manga, actually, that I started to get used to wake instead of trying to study it in a book. And what I think a lot of people might try to do is, did anybody try to translate it in their head into English? And then choose which English sentence made sense?
actually,
Kind of?
kind of. But then I gave that up.
You gave it up? Yeah, they're trying to test you on wake. Good, because my advice was going to be translating it in your head
Yeah.
into English rarely works. It's Japanese grammar. It functions in a Japanese way. One another tip from Joanna. She said, I had to get comfortable with taking away the gist of an article rather than understanding everything and focus on the syntax rather than the meaning of the words. This means iru, he is there. This means reason. Not breaking it up, not translated in your head, but focusing on that as a grammar point. So, big piece of advice, invest in grammar dictionaries. I know we've talked a lot about apps. I know the younger generations are into everything being digital and free, but there is still a lot of value in paper books that cost quite a bit of money, but it is a good investment. This is a series of grammar dictionaries out there, a dictionary of basic, intermediate, and advanced Japanese grammar. A highly regarded books. Has anybody used these before? I had them when I lived in Japan. They're published in Japan. You can get them on Amazon. They'll run you probably about $50 or $60 a piece. They're probably about 3,500 to 5,000 some yen, I forget, in Japan, but that's what they'll run you. Very excellent. And this is kind of a scale of where they'll take you through.
Do you have advice about how to use them?
How to use them?
I've had these books on my shelf for 20 years, and I haven't used them much because they're kind of overwhelming.
They're kind of overwhelming because it's a dictionary.
Yeah.
It's not a textbook you read from cover to cover.
Yeah.
So it really is in terms of how you use it. Let's say we've got that sample question and we figured out the grammar is wake. Okay, then I go to the wa section of that dictionary and see if it has wake. Mm-hmm. Again, depending on the level, it might not be in the beginner one. That might be more the intermediate or advanced one. But that's what I used to do is when I hit the grammar point, I then hit the dictionary.
Okay.
And looked it up almost the same way I would a vocabulary word.
Because that's going to be a more detailed explanation than, say, what's in Genki.
Yes, more detailed and more examples.
Yeah.
And if you can read those example sentences in Japanese, those example sentences in the dictionaries will look an awful lot like the question sentences on the test. So that was another thing. This big one is a Japanese book. And this is if you're going for N1, you want this book, Nihongo Bunkei Jiten. This is for people like me. This is for Japanese instructors and researchers and people going for N1. I've studied a lot and taught a lot of languages, and I have never found a better grammar dictionary for any language in the world other than this book. And it's the same thing. When I hit a grammar point I didn't understand, this will have everything. This will have all of them, but it's in Japanese. The explanations are in Japanese. But what I started to do is read all these example sentences in this book, and those sentence structures, those sentence types were almost exactly the same types of sentences that were on the test itself. So there's also a lot of value in the examples, not just the definitions, but the examples. Okay? And make flashcards for grammar points. You think it's kind of silly. It's not vocab, it's not kanji, but you do have to make grammar for flashcards for grammar points because, again, a lot of times it's a multiple choice. It's 4 choices, and they're trying to trick you up. And if you have those down really solid, you can identify the wrong ones and hopefully identify the right one as well. So, in terms of grammar, again, I'm trying to go through this pretty quickly, but translating it into English in your head rarely works. Actually spend the money to invest in the grammar dictionaries and get to using those, and also make flashcards for grammar points specifically. Do you have any questions or anything we want to talk about for the grammar section?
I'm curious about where you get your flashcards. Do you buy them online? Do you use like Japanese flashcards?
Do you mean like the card stock?
Those
Or
little cards on the key.
on the key ring?
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
I had a little key ring thing of cards just for grammar, and it would have wake janai, wake ganai, soyu wake nai. You know, it would have the different types of ways to use wake. In the advanced things, another thing that used to get me because I was translated in my head, ni shitagate, ni yote, ni sote, ni tomonate. If I look them up in my vocabulary dictionary, all those are going to say in English according to, you know, but they're going to have different usages in Japanese, and that's going to be the 4 choices. They're going to give you 4 choices that translate into English according to.
I always get those confused.
Yeah.
When I read them.
Yeah, those are hard. And those grammar dictionaries I showed you will explain the different usages and have a lot of good examples, so they're good to invest in. Okay? Anything else for grammar? Bunpo. Moving right along. Dokai. Reading comprehension. This is what got you, right? Okay? We're going to do a bit of a reading comprehension problem. This is sample question 10, but what we're going to do is we're going to do an English reading comprehension question, which you guys might think is too easy and a waste of time. So you all can do this, okay? Anybody can do this because it's going to be in English. It's a sample question number 10 on the handout. Anybody watching on YouTube, I will have links to the handout so you can download it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read this story in English. We're then going to answer the question on the screen and then discuss it from an English point of view, because this is very much the way they structure reading comprehension questions on the test. So I'm just going to read this. This is very similar to an article I had on the real JLPT. This is how I remember it, and I've made an English translation, so I do not endorse smoking or anything like that for the younger people. Okay? Here was the passage. The author says, "I smoke. I know I shouldn't be doing it. Modern society already has a negative image of smokers, which is drastically different from the first half of the 20th century. Back then, everybody did it. Just look at the old movies from the 1950s, and the guy smoking was always the cool guy. Maybe someday I'll quit, but I don't see it happening. More than likely, the cigarettes will kill me first. After all, almost every doctor and researcher that you read these days is going on and on about lung cancer, throat cancer, and all sorts of other health problems caused by smoking. But have you ever read anything that supports smoking or that recommends not to quit? There are people out there talking about such things, but there are certainly not many. For example, there's evidence that smoking affects certain chemicals in the brain that cause stress, meaning smoking can be a way to reduce stress. And people who drop the cigarettes cold turkey can suffer from increased stress and withdrawal symptoms. Take this friend of mine at work, Yamada. He and I used to smoke together all the time on our breaks. Then his wife kept bugging him to quit smoking, so he did. What happened? He blew up like a balloon, easily gaining 5 kilos within a month. Now he has to pay for a gym membership, get home even later after working out at said gym, and eat all sorts of rabbit food under constant pressure from his wife. We used to eat all the curry and ramen and whatever we wanted and just smoked the weight away. Now he seems pretty unhappy, actually. Did giving up cigarettes cold really do him any good? I've seen some old men smoke their whole lives all the way through their 80s. The cancer never got them. My point is, we can't just take everything at face value. Yes, smoking is bad, but if you're going to quit, take it slow and don't just give in to outside pressure. The question, what does the author say about quitting smoking? Take a moment to read the 4 choices and choose the correct answer. I'm assuming we're all native English speakers, so you should arrive at it pretty quickly, but then we're going to get into some discussion about why we got there and what the test was looking for. So just raise your hand if you've got your answer on this one. Okay? You guys, everybody got an answer? Circled an answer? Okay, what answer do we have?
3.
3.
Why 3?
It's the main point.
The main point of the article?
Well, the first one, the first answer there touches on the intro of the article, but it's not the main point.
Okay. That first one right there has text exactly from the article, right?
Mm-hmm.
Word for word, almost from the article. But what's different about number 1? Why is it the incorrect answer?
The second sentence.
The second sentence, everybody should quit smoking. That's not what the author said. And the question was, what does the author say? Okay? So when I took my class for the JLPT, one thing my teacher told me, and this made a lot of sense at the time. I'd never thought about this before. She says the correct answer does not necessarily match the longest answer, like we may see with number 1. Okay? Does not necessarily match the shortest answer, like number 4. If we're reading something, we're confused, we're running out of time, like you said, you might resort to this thinking, oh, I'm just going to choose the longest one. I'm just going to choose the shortest one because I'm running out of time. That doesn't make it right. Doesn't necessarily match your opinion, okay? Does not match the way the passage made you feel. You could be running out of time. You could have read something about a sensitive topic like this and gotten really mad or emotional about it and chosen an answer out of emotion, and it would have been wrong. The correct answer might not be what is ethical or legal. The correct answer might not be what society generally holds to be true or common sense. And the correct answer might not even be what is factually true. Okay? Again, if we're having trouble understanding, we might resort to just wanting to choose an answer for this reason, and it is not why the answer is correct. Where does the correct answer exist for this test? Where's the answer?
In the passage.
It's in the passage. Yeah. If a single part of the answer is false, the rest of it's incorrect, like you said with number 1. But where is the answer? The answer is in the text. The answer is nowhere else but in the text. It's not in your head. It's not in your heart. It's not what's on the news. The answer to this question is right there in the text you just read. It might be reworded, like how I've done with these choices. It might be something else. The articles are often like this. Like I said, this is my memory translation of a real JLPT problem I was given for the reading test. And you can tell by the content that's exactly what they're trying to get you with. We all know smoking is bad, so you're probably going to choose those choices just by default, what you know for common knowledge or what your opinion on the issue might be. And they can get you with that, with the wrong answer. So, you said you were running out of time, Dion. Did you have to go back and forth between question and text a lot? Is that where you lost a lot of time?
Yeah. Because I was told to kind of read for certain things, like read for, But I ended up getting confused and frustrated, and then I ended up kind of losing that skill set that the teacher taught me, how to read the passages and how to look for the main points. So,
What did she teach you how to find the answer?
I'm trying to remember. It's like usually you kind of at each paragraph kind of read for the main point, the main idea of each sentence, and then not the supporting things they help support the main idea, but the main idea kind of skim over and find the main idea of each sentence.
Find the main idea. You want to find the subject.
And the subject.
The subject of her sentence. Who's doing what? You want to find the direct object. What was acted upon? I drink water. The water was what was being acted upon. The verb tense. You guys haven't gotten into all these verbs. Have you guys done shimasu?
Yes.
Suru? Okay, that's your basic present tense. Something could be a passive tense. Somebody was made to do something. Something was done to somebody. It's not always going to be straight up A did X action. It could have been A was in this situation and had this action done by Y. It can get very long and confusing, and you want to identify the subject, the object, the verb tense. Your pronouns, they throw a lot of these at you. They'll have a passage and they'll underline sorewa. And the question will be, what does this underlined sorewa refer to? Just like it or that. What does it refer to? What does that refer to? Asokowa. Where is asokowa referring to? Or koto, mono, things.
I get really confused with that in long sentences.
Yeah, in long sentences. Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Dakara, ni yote, nano ni. Okay? Something is connecting something because, according to, even though. These can kind of trip you up because they may ask a question that could relate to this. Is it because something happened? Is it even though something happened? It all comes down to the 5 W's, 1 H. You guys studied this in school?
You should know it by now.
You should know it. What does 5 W's, 1 H mean? Anybody?
Thinking that where, when, why, how.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They say this in Japanese. In Japanese, they say go W H E H. Go W H E H. This is all they can ask you. This is all a question can be. Who did what or which one? When was it? Where was it? Why did they do that? How did they do it? How much did it cost? How did they get there? These are question words. These are the only things questions can be made from. So like Dion was saying, you're looking for the main point. What you're looking for is the 5 W's, 1 H. Because that's what they're going to ask you, because that's the only way they can formulate questions, is with these question words. So that's what you're looking for. Next piece of advice. Reading comprehension is a separate skill. It is a skill. Memorizing kanji is a skill. Studying grammar is a skill. Reading comprehension by itself is a skill. As Joanna said, she had to learn to read without total comprehension. Read the passage without understanding every single kanji that's in it and getting that main point like you were talking about. So the question is, how do you build or improve your reading comprehension?
Reading.
Read! You have to read. Not just your textbook, not just your JLPT passages. You have to read manga. You have to read light novels or children's books. I have Momotaro in Japanese, a children's story. You have to read websites and newspaper articles and magazine articles for those higher levels. You have to be reading Japanese in your life, outside of study, to build that reading comprehension skill. And the way I know I nailed this when I was studying for JLPT was because in Tokyo I had an hour train ride to school every day. What was I doing on the train?
Reading.
I was reading. I was reading manga. I read The Ring and Parasite Eve and those classic Japanese horror novels in Japanese. Reading all those books, reading all the time. And that's how I know I nailed the reading comprehension section. Because in my own daily life, I was reading in Japanese every day, all the time. And that is what it takes. This is the section that got you, right? This is the section that got Alex. This was a section a lot of us said, to answer your question, was the hardest. And the way you address it is you read. Okay? That's something separate from studying for the JLPT by itself. Review. Answer is in the text, nowhere else. And reading comprehension is a separate skill that you need to develop outside your normal Japanese or JLPT study. Anything about the reading comprehension section? Chokai, listening comprehension. Listening comprehension. How do you improve your listening comprehension?
I'm going to say listen.
Do you listen?
You listen. You listen. Exactly. You listen, basically. How do you listen? How can you find ways to listen to Japanese?
Subtitled anime.
Anime.
Leave the
What do
TV
we
on.
do in our class? We don't watch
Pod-
it in subtitles.
Podcast. We don't watch it in
Oh, yeah.
subtitles, okay? Music.
Yeah, fun.
Drama.
The news.
The news.
Friends.
Friends. Talking to friends.
Active listening.
Active listening. Okay. Yeah, we could list up a lot of things. A good website that talks about this, all Japanese, all the time. So we've talked about some of these, but one of the things I want you to think about is that these things, what they do is they increase your stimulus. They increase the amount of times your brain is being hit with the language. And that's the basic thing you need to learn language. That's how babies learn language. They're born into an environment and their brains are just hit with it. And as they develop their brain, they also develop the language. But stimulus by itself just isn't enough. If you have some sort of Japanese stimulus, if you hear something in Japanese, what happens to you next? What's going on in your brain or whatever? There's going to be a step after you're hit with the stimulus, right?
Recognition.
Realization.
Oh, okay.
I call it comprehension. Or, for a lot of us, a lack thereof, right? But there's this step where your brain's going to chew on the stimuli or stimulus that it's just received. And then finally, those of us who've studied psychology know response. If you study psychology, stimulus and response. Pavlov's dogs, all that type of thing, go Google it. Stimulus and response, known from psychology, but I throw in there comprehension because your brain is computing it, chewing on it. So I call this SCR for short. Stimulus, comprehension, response. When you're taking that listening test, that's what your brain's going through. And SCR can be like a muscle. And it's a muscle you need to work. So if I'm training for a marathon, should I be bench pressing weights all the time and only doing that?
No.
No? What should I do?
You should be running more.
You should be running. Exactly. You need to be running to train for a marathon, to work those muscles you will need for the marathon. And so for the listening section of the test, you will need that stimulus comprehension response muscle, and that's what you'll need to be working. That's what you'll need to be exercising, like we've talked about here. Some other things, Japanese conversation partner, I think somebody mentioned. From my research, I'm big into playing video games in Japanese because it's the exact same thing. I love Dynasty Warriors. Where are my video game fans? I know you're here. Dynasty Warriors.
Samurai Warriors was the...
Samurai Warriors, yeah.
Wasn't that that's the actual Japanese...
That's the actual Japanese. I'm a bigger fan of Dynasty Warriors in China, though.
Yeah.
And for those of you who aren't video game nerds, I'm sorry. But anyway, I used to play Dynasty Warriors. You're on this map in these ancient Chinese battlefields, and you're controlling this guy, and you're just hacking and slashing. And you can see on the map, one of your fellow generals will say, Taskete! Taskete! And I could see him on the map, and he's yelling, Taskete! What do? I just keep hacking away at people. And then it's like, that general was defeated. And I'm like, wait, why? Oh no. And then the next time I play the game, I know when I get the stimulus, Taskete, I need to comprehend it, he needs help, and my response needs to be, I need to go help him. So even though it's a video game, that's that same stimulus, comprehension, response muscle that I'm working. Some other researchers may disagree with me, that's fine, we'll talk about it later, but I'm into playing video games in Japanese to working that muscle. Practice dictation. What do I mean by dictation? Writing it, yeah. You hear it, and you're writing what you hear. Additional, practice shadowing. Anybody know what I mean by that?
It's repeating after someone. That's what they say.
They say it, we pause, and then you repeat it. You could do that. What about doing it at the same time?
That sounds like too much effort.
6番
男
男の人と
女の人が
女の人が
話してい
話
ます。
しています。
男の人
男の人
は
は
何を持って
何を
いきます
持っていき
か？
ますか? That's shadowing. That's shadowing. And that's what professional interpreters do when they're not interpreting. I had an interpreting gig this week. So what I did is I downloaded NHK podcast and I shadowed it just like that for like 20 minutes a day. Tiring. Exhausting. Just like if you're training for that marathon and you're working those leg muscles and those leg muscles, practicing running. Shadowing and dictation are something that I think falls into the category of deliberate practice. Anybody heard or read anything about this? If you've heard or read about the 10,000 hour rule or deliberate practice, I could listen to my podcast in my car and I'm increasing my stimulus, which is good, but that's not deliberate practice. When I take my news podcast and I try to shadow it, or I try to do the dictation, am I going to get 100% of everything? No. There's going to be blurry moments as I listen to it. And I know those blurry moments are what I need to go back and listen to again, or work on, or learn that vocabulary word. That's deliberate practice. It's a difficult activity, like shadowing or dictation. Just listening to a podcast, just watching anime, that's easy. This is a lot harder, and so that's what makes it deliberate practice. It stretches your abilities where they most need to be stretching. Like when we're training for the marathon, you said we're going to run. That's what we need most stretching on. If we're talking about the listening section, if we're training for that, this is where we need to be stretching our ability. Provides immediate feedback. This is a big thing behind deliberate practice. If I try to do the dictation and shadow and I miss a whole part, that's my feedback. I know I missed that part, okay, and I know what I need to work on. And it's also intentionally done for the sole purpose of improving in that specific area of performance. All this definition comes from a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You, which is good advice for your career or where you want your Japanese ability to be. When you're taking JLPT, especially those big levels like N2, you got to be so good they can't ignore you at that thing. And deliberate practice is the way you get there. How we talked about podcast. You guys watch anime, then try to speak along with the characters. There's always going to be that delay, but try to imitate them. Yeah.
Would singing songs count as shadowing too?
With the CD, and you've already memorized the lyrics. Kind of, but the fact that you've already memorized the lyrics is what I would say doesn't make it deliberate practice. Because when you go in that JLPT room, you've never heard that track they're going to play. Unlike that song you've heard 100 times. So that's the situation you want to put yourself in. Yeah. Yeah, you want to expose yourself to something you've never heard before. That's why I listen to the NHK podcast, because it's updated daily with 3 news reports, morning, afternoon, and evening. So I know every day I've got something I've never heard before in Japanese to shadow to. So when you hear the track for the listening test, is it going to be a situation like the woman and the man go to the store and they have to choose between items 1, 2, 3, and 4, which one are they going to buy? Which one do they buy? Hey, let's look at number 2. Let's buy it. Okay. Ping! Is it going to be that simple?
No.
No. Never. Never. It's always going to be something like, oh, hey, look at number 2. That looks pretty good. Yeah, but I don't really like the color. I'm kind of more into the style of, like, oh, number 3 over here looks nice. Don't you think so? Oh, check out number 4. Number 4 is like the best one so far. Yeah, it's nice, but look at the price tag. Oh my goodness, that's out of our budget. Well, we definitely don't want number 1, do we? No, we don't want that. Where did we end up? 3. We ended up at number 3. And it's always going to be something like that. So just prepare yourself for the long thing. A lot of times you'll have actual pictures here on the paper that you can write on. You can draw lines like how I just did to figure out where you end up at.
How many times should they play the recording?
Just once.
Just once, okay.
They'll tell you the situation. like that sample I just played, the woman and the man are going to the store. Which one did they buy? You'll hear the dialogue, then they'll ask you the question again. Which one did they buy? And then they'll give you a few seconds to silence to make your choice and repeat that pattern over and over again. Again, it also comes down to the 5 W's, 1 H. Which one did they buy? They bought number 3. When did the bus leave? It left at 1:30. Where did they go? They went to Tokyo. These are the only questions they can ask you. So as you're listening, different people, different things. Like jotting stuff down doesn't help me. The amount of, if I jot down the who, what, when, where, why, and how, the time, that moment, that split second, I focused on writing, I missed what they were talking about. That's just me. Does writing stuff down help you guys? Nope. Same way? Yeah. Focusing on what you hear. Yeah. Other people might be different, and some of my classmates were like they could write down, like maybe if you had a number, especially, how many thousands of millions of yen or whatever, you might want to write that down. But that's what I found. If I try to write something, my concentration slips just at the wrong moment, and I missed what they really ended up asking. Yeah.
When I studied Japanese in college, when we had listening comprehension parts of our exams, in the conversations there was a lot of noise pollution, like buses driving by, like honking horns in the background. There's going to be a lot of that in the listening.
Not so much. Okay. I don't think they would use that to intentionally troll you, and they're really good at maintaining the quality of the room. The other test, J test I spoke of, they're not so good. They'll pull out a little tape player and play it. JLPT, as a test proctor, I know that we really worked to make sure that everybody could hear what was going on. Now, they do have sound effects. Like the last time I took level 1, it was really interesting because it was definitely a Gundam-like situation. And it was like, we need to get in suit number 3. Oh no, suit number 3 is malfunctioning and the aliens are coming. Let's take suit number 4. Oh no, that won't work against... Like, it really was like Gundam or something. It was really, really... Like, everybody listened to it and kind of laughed, even though you're not supposed to talk. But that had all the sirens and lasers and sound effects and stuff. But I don't think they would use that to mask the dialogue to try to trick you.
I took a class when it was like...
They did that to you?
It was like individual cashier beeps, like scanning of items, and they would use that, and some of the words were masked because of it. You kind of had to guess, like, not guess, but kind of use context and think what was probably said. Yeah. So it was a lot of that, but N2 probably won't have that kind of thing in there.
No, I don't think they would use sound effects to mask information that you need. Yeah.
So things like J-test or stuff that's exclusive in Japan opposed to the States, is it possible to do like mock things of that online, or?
You could go to J-test website. I know they publish books similar to this. These you can, for JLPT, you'll find on Amazon, no problem, for relatively cheap prices. A J-test material, I'm not sure you would find it, and even if you did, you might have to pay a little bit more for it. Okay. Career-wise, though, what you want's the JLPT. And what I advise people to take J-test for is just to get more test-taking practice while you're living in Japan, getting ready for those higher levels like N2 and N1. Okay. A great question, though. Other questions about listening or pieces of advice? So, what you need to do for the listening test, increase your stimulus. Yeah, keep watching anime without the subtitles, listen to some podcasts, but then you're going to need to work your stimulus, comprehension, response, do some exercises that are deliberate practice. You'll hear that term in the business world, sports world, all sorts of places. Deliberate practice. You can Google that and learn a lot more about it. So that is it. That is all 5 sections of the JLPT. Who's exhausted? Thank you for your honesty. I know I am.
Is there a certain age you have to be to take the JLPT?
No,
I don't think so.
Their website, and I contacted them as well. And apparently, like recently, like a few years ago, the youngest person to pass it was like 8, 9.
Oh wow!
Like past N5.
Yeah, I think in the Japanese site, what I've looked at, they said there's no restriction on age, but it is for non-native speakers of Japanese. Questions or things to share? Yeah, please.
Question, like, what time does it usually start?
In the morning. Again, depending on your level, they may take the 5 sections and group them into 3. So you guys at the higher levels could easily do everything but listening in one 2-hour session in the morning. Take a lunch break, come back and do listening. Yeah.
I know a lot of my parents are probably going to ask this as well. How long is the entire test?
It again changes by the level. You guys are interested in N5? You got the N5 book right here. When you buy this book, it'll tell you.
Oh, well, okay.
When you go to simulate the actual experience, they tell you right there, this section, you got 25 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So you know you can set your stopwatch to 25 minutes, and you've got to get through this section right here. And if you don't, then you got to stop and just score it from there. And there's the next section. You get 50 minutes.
So I don't believe they allow anything like digital, but you can anything analog is fair game, right?
Not in terms of dictionaries or textbooks. Or
Okay,
anything.
right.
Watches, like we were talking about, is a good thing to have. But no phones. If you do have a digital watch or stopwatch, make sure it's not having an alarm. Here we go. As an example, the N5 listening section is 30 minutes long. So for this, what they're going to do when you come into this section, the track is 30 minutes. They're going to play that track, and when that track's over, the listening test is over. And if you guys could show me the N1, we'll just compare listening. It's 30 minutes.
I was going to ask you, what are these tabs for? You couldn't say that.
I don't know. I'm the one that put the tabs there.
I think...
it probably marks a section. Okay, N2 listening is 50 minutes. N1 listening is 60 minutes. So we see from N5 to N1, the amount of time for the listening test is doubled.
How much is your listening? It's, I can imagine taking an right now. I think NT could comfortably right now.
Other questions, comments, feedback?
I mean, you briefly went over resources. I'm gonna get this book if I don't already have it.
Yeah.
I think it's in my car. But is there like any other just concrete for N2 to pass? Like
You have the Kanzen Master Series we talked about at the beginning.
maybe yeah, I'm gonna get the Kanji Master, and then I have like remembering the Kanji RTK. If you're familiar with that, I think I have all 3 of those on my MacBook.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get as many resources as I can, and then watch
Right.
anime and manga just just be complete, like just dive into everything Japanese for the next like 6 months.
As remembering the kanjis at the Hasig method?
I think it is.
Yeah.
It is from the HANDOUT. I think that's where you got it from.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I've seen some people do with that is it really helps them recognize radicals and recognize characters. It doesn't help them memorize their readings, which, like we've talked about, is really how they're going to get you. So the fact that you've got 1 tree and it becomes 2 trees for woods and 3 trees to forest is good, for studying kanji and learning about the concepts. It doesn't really help you a whole lot with the readings on the test that they're going to try to trick you with.
So one Imani is probably the best resource I've ever found for that. But
Did I write that one down?
The problem is in 6 months you won't be able to get to the level I think you're probably at. Because it starts you at level 1 and you can't skip.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you have to go through all of it. 60 levels.
So, what's your opinion on the Hasig books? I've heard of those before. For kanji.
Again, good for helping to understand and memorize kanji, how they look by the radicals. Essentially, my understanding, and I'm not using it for myself, but they're telling a story. Like you've got a tree that I climbed, but then I walked and there were more trees, so now I'm in the woods, and then the person kept walking, and then he ended up in the forest. That type of thing. It's a very, very effective method of memorizing kanji through storytelling, essentially. A lot of good science behind it, but again, what the JLPT is drilling you on, it doesn't cover as much. And one example, we interviewed one JET candidate who had gone through Hasig. In the JET program application, you had to put your Japanese level. And he put, I know 1,700 kanji. And we were like, whoa! He's like N2 level. He might be going for N1 pretty soon, And we got him in the room and we did a little bit of an interview, and he couldn't even do Hajime Mashite. Watashi wa Jon desu. Because that's again what he did. Yeah, he went through 1,700 kanji. memorizing stories through the HASIG method, but wasn't learning grammar or even basic conversation.
So we didn't know how to apply any of it.
Right. And that's a very key word. JLPT is focused on application. Yeah. Because again, it's sort of a professional certification.
Whereas a HASIC is more or less just helping with memorization.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of good questions. Yeah.
Do you know any like sites or anything I'd be able to buy or read like raw manga off of, like just in Japanese?
I think something called ebook Japan, ebookjapan.jp. My friend, my Japanese friend, she uses this site to read her favorite manga that she can't get over here. A lot of your classics that are in the public domain in English, Sherlock Holmes, that type of thing, you can Google around and find the Japanese versions of those. They're going to be a little bit harder. It's older Japanese, something like it. But for manga, like the ebook Japan or something like that, I think is a good one.
Okay.
Because she's told me, she's using her American credit card and everything to purchase things. Okay. Do we have a question?
About the reading comprehension. So you said they play a track for 30 minutes.
That's a listening.
Okay, so they'll stop in between there so you can answer your question. As far as.
Yeah, they give you 10 seconds of silence or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They tell you the situation. The man and the woman are going to the store. They ask the question, which item are they going to buy? They play the dialogue, and they ask the question again, which item did they buy? Then they give you that 10, 15 seconds of silence or something to think about it and answer. And then they'll go to the next one. Number 6. A man and a woman are waiting for a bus and having a conversation. What time did the bus leave? And just repeating that pattern over and over again. Yeah.
There's a question. So, like I mentioned earlier, I don't really have very much of a background in Japanese. All I have is this past year at work. I work at a university, and I would just audit a couple nights a week of Japanese classes there at the school.
Okay.
And so, as far as getting a starting point, I've probably worked up maybe halfway through the first Genki book. But,
halfway through Genki?
Roughly.
Okay.
So, as far as, would you recommend just continuing through Genki for now, or do you recommend a different text series?
For your grammar and everything, yes. Because you will need some sort of structure. I think just looking at the test and saying, I don't know this, and trying to go to a grammar dictionary at your level, it is going to be really frustrating and take a lot of energy. Whereas something like Genki will give you that path. Now, you're going on JET. Genki's not my all-time favorite textbook. Mina no Nihongo. That's what you all...
When we were in Japan, that's what we used.
Yeah, a lot of the Japanese language schools use this Mina no Nihongo book series. And this is sort of my favorite. This was what I learned in Japanese language school. And I took the books and was able to self-study on my own using the rest of the Mina no Nihongo series. What you're going to find compared to Genki, number of vocabulary, 5 times what's in a Genki chapter. But I still think that's really appropriate for what you'll need for the JLPT, to be that volume of vocabulary. And grammar is definitely what you need to be approaching. So, again, this book is published in Japan. We can see it's about 30.
Books are in this series.
How many books are in this series? This is book 1. Here they are. I know it definitely goes 1 and 2. But even book 1 could go through Genki 1 and 2 material.
I've never heard of this book before. And I'm
this you don't see this in colleges or things here in the United States. Most people use Genki or Nakama or Yokoso. When you get to an intensive language training at a school in Japan, this is probably one of the most used textbooks, Mina no Nihongo.
So would you just recommend for now just to cut off the Genki and start with this?
If you're willing to invest, then yeah. Because again, one of the things, my struggles with Genki, especially here at TFLI, is it is geared for college students. The example sentences are, Senko wa nan desu ka? What's your major? Okay, that is very much geared towards the college student life of host families and study abroad and all that, and doesn't get into stuff like working at a company or, even if it has a topic about transportation, catching the train or whatever, something like Mina no Nihongo is going to go a lot deeper into that topic and give you a lot more useful vocabulary for it.
How many books are in the Mina no Nihongo?
I do think it's 2, just looking up here. And like Genki, they'll have a textbook and a workbook. But again, that Mina no Nihongo 1 could probably easily cover both Genki 1 and 2. And then Mina no Nihongo 2 beyond that.
And just follow up on that, at that very beginning level, is it realistic to sign up for N5 and take that in December?
You know hiragana, katakana?
Hiragana I can piece through, katakana is another story.
Okay, in terms of passing it, might be difficult. But I want you to register for it and take it, like I talked about yesterday, because you need the experience. You need to be failing to succeed first. And here's another difference between J-test. JLPT N5, we talked about you need 100 kanji or more to pass that. J-test does have an absolute beginner level, like a hiragana, katakana level. So what I would encourage you to do, since you're going to Japan, look at J-test and go ahead and start taking that. And still register for N5. But especially since you're going on jet to Japan, by July of next year, you can knock N5 out of the ballpark. I'm sure of it. If you keep up with your study. Not through osmosis, not just through walking around and talking to people. If you really sat down and studied, you could nail N5 really solid by the end of 1 year in the JET program, starting from almost 0. Yeah.
So do you know of any words that are used in like daily conversation but aren't in textbooks? Words like uso or uso desho.
Yeah.
Like I've heard of words like that just aren't in stuff like genki.
Lots. That's a whole other 3-hour seminar in and of itself. And even in the Mina no Nihongo series, there was one chapter about the informal commands. Like shiro, koi, kochi ni koi, you get over here, koi, shiro, tabero, you eat it, kue, you eat it. There was a whole chapter about that, and my teacher skipped it in class, and she was like, you all have no reason to talk like this while you're here in Japan. This is too rude, this is too informal, I'm not teaching you this.
I tell you.
But what do you think I did? I learned it. Oh yeah, I was able to learn that whole chapter. I had that whole thing down, and it's actually really useful in terms of conjugating verbs because it is part of the conjugation cycle. You have to memorize anyway. But yeah, that I don't think that verb tense is in Genki. So
it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
Where are you going to jet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where were you going for jet?
Kanazawa Prefecture.
Okay. I'm not really sure what kind of like speaking patterns they use, but when I was in Japan for a year, I was like in the middle of Kansai, and that really altered the way like I speak Japanese. So like, I have to study Hyojingo or like standard Japanese a lot harder now that I have a lot of Kansai experience. Because Kansai had been kind of really
jealous. I smell you in Saitama, so I want to know Kansai then.
Yeah. So just pay attention to like what if you like you're gonna get some local dialect and just make sure it doesn't like alter your standard Japanese.
Right. That's a good point though. The JLPT is going to be standard Japanese. They're not going to have Kansai Ben as the choices and choose the correct Kansai Ben choice. For you guys that haven't learned, Kansai Ben is the dialect of the Osaka area, so it's kind of like an accent. Almost like a southern accent or something.
They know there is an accent.
Okay, yeah.
They know it.
Except you actually change words, like you change
the spelling, yeah.
Yeah.
Wakata masen, wakata hen.
There's no dots, yeah.
Like I use a lot of like when I came back to the States and like did my last year of college, it's constantly would slip out all the time.
Right.
I'm going to be on Kyushu, so I don't know what's going to happen.
They'll have their band. Yeah, we had Sanuki Den where I live. Thank you guys for coming out and hanging out with us. You're the future, and you're getting a great head start.
We were the future once.
Yeah, we were the future. Now we're the past.
Our times have changed.
Thank you, Jon Sensei.
Thank you, guys.